Anyone else new to the meeting? Haven't been here in a while?
Yes, I'm new.
Oop, you muted. Yep.
Sorry about that. Yes, I'm new. My name is Chris Cooley. I'm from Grand Canyon University. I'm a development counselor, and I specifically work with the military division to pretty much promote online programs for bachelor's, master's, doctorate's degrees. Anyone looking to go back to school, we're asynchronous, so no Zoom classes. We are accredited. There's no Zoom calling for, like most universities will have you come in on a Monday or Wednesday at a certain time, so you don't have to obligate majority of your time to, going to school. You can still focus on the daily life, whether you work a job, you have kids, and just pretty much trying to get everybody in the right direction as far as higher education. And that's pretty much my first time here. So thank you for welcoming me here.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
All right, good morning. I'm new to the group. My name is Devon. I am the Public Affairs Officer for Department of Veteran Affairs for California, not the VA, or the state side. So I represent the greater LA and Ventura County area. So we have homes for veterans in LA, and Lancaster, and Ventura. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Esther Chapman with Chapman House and Teen Savers. So we are a substance abuse and mental health treatment program for adults and adolescents. And the owners there are veterans and Gold Star family. So thank you for having me, and that's it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, Rebecca, we hear you.
Hi, this is Rebecca Ricci. I'm the program director from Village for Vets. This is my first time attending the meeting. And for those of you who don't know Village for Vets, we are a nonprofit that aims at filling critical gaps in services for veterans. So we have an emergency fund. We're a first-year grantee for SSVF. We run dental clinics every year with the USC to provide necessary dental care to veterans who don't qualify for VA dental care. And food box delivery and many other things. So if there's a gap to fill, we're trying to do that. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. Anybody else?
Good morning. My name is Patrice Springer, and I'm the Executive Director of Your Image 2020. And we are a trauma-based service, and we provide professional clothing to male and female vets. I'm located at the AJCC Rancho Dominguez in Compton. And we do all the services. They also get an hour of coaching on interview techniques. Once they get their suit on, it's such a difference when we sit down and do a mock interview and do, my husband is a Navy vet and he does my mock interviews. I do the practice questions and then immediately they go over to him and they do a tough mock interview with him. And so I put my information on the chat. So anybody that would like the service, please get in touch with me.
Awesome.
Hi, my name's.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Sandra. I'm just got hired onto this position. I'm at the Vet Center in LA, specifically in Gardena, and we primarily do mental health, and we are attached to the VA hospital operation.
My name's Brian Kleindienst. I was here in the last meeting. I was about a half hour late, so I apologize this when I'm on time. But officially my first full time here. I'm a psychedelic and wellness integration coach. I work with veterans with different plant medicines, ketamine. I work in a ketamine clinic to help with PTSD, depression, anxiety, any addictions. I integrate a lot of different modalities along with breath work, movement. Surfing is a big part of it too. I work with 4 or 5 different veteran groups in Southern California and the East Coast. I've been on a few webinars in mitigating the risk of utilizing ketamine, which helps veterans process some of the after effects of coming home and dealing with, like I mentioned, the anxiety, depression, PTSD. So a lot of assistance in getting, and our first responders as well, in getting their minds and bodies and feeling well again. All right, thank you.
Awesome. I do see that Jim is on. I don't know if you want to jump on and start off or kick off the meeting with a mission.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we had a couple more people that are new, so.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janae Watts. I'm sorry for having my screen on after 3 years. I'm just not feeling up to par to show my face, really. I wear a couple of hats, and this is my first time, and I'm really excited as far as being on board. I actually, Monday through Friday, work at PATH, People Assisting the Homeless, in the HVRP unit. The other hats that I wear, I'm actually involved in legislation and public policy for the California Career Development Association. I chair the Legislative and Public Policy Committee, and I'm also on the National Career Development Association Government Relations Committee, in which we have a stronger voice as far as advocating for those that are interested in career development and the challenges that we have in that field. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to participating in this group in the future. Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else new to the group?
Hi, Laurel Forrest. Should I go?
Yes,
Hi.
please, Laurel.
Laurel Forrest for Veterans Welcoming Homes in the Antelope Valley, Palmdale. We are the only one that we know providing large-scale residential housing to homeless veterans. There are various projects for veterans who have jobs or who are able to get a mortgage. And we've been adamant about welcoming homes for veterans who have been homeless or 2 of the last 5 years with the VASH program. And we're real excited. We're about to get the building permit and move on to construction. It's taken a while because of local government resistance to anybody with the word homeless in front of their name. So I spoke at the October meeting and said hello, and I was sick for December, and sorry I couldn't make the last one, so I know I've missed a lot. I was wondering if also you all have any recommendations for additional board members for us who are either in LA or hopefully in the Antelope Valley, who are veteran background, who have generality skills and would like to consider being an advisory group, if not a formal board member, but we're looking for more advisors to our project. And we also plan to take, since the property is fully paid for so far, there's no mortgage on it, we're getting a state grant and a few other grants. So we're able to take all of the VASH income to provide wraparound services for our veterans. And that'll be cultural, recreational, educational, on-site, and field trips. So for that, we're seeking all kind of input. And if you would put a message in chat, if you have any ideas, we could talk offline later. That would be great. Veterans Welcoming Homes, Palmdale. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Laurel. Welcome. I see Dr. Barr has her hand up.
Yes, I do. I'm really eager to be here. I just founded a business school where I specialize in entrepreneurs, and I'm extremely interested, as my dad was a vet and an entrepreneur. I would really like to welcome people to our community, because anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur needs to shorten the cycle before they burn through all their money. And so everything that you need to start, grow, fund a business and grow a business, that's what we're teaching. So I'd love to be part of this community. I'm on several boards and advisory boards, and I'd be really eager to talk about that too. Thank you.
Great, welcome. Nathan?
Yeah, so it's not my first time on the meeting. However, it's my first time working for Banyan on the meeting. I did move companies recently, and I'm loving it. We do mental health substance. We are a national program, and we actually have some some great new programs that are helping with veterans who are in crisis, because getting them into treatment is paramount. We can get them into treatment almost right away, as opposed to going through 3 or 4 steps. And so, yeah, there's all that. And I'm also helping out with benefits education. If anyone wants to know more about VA benefits, I worked for the VA for 12 years, covered the entire state of Washington for the Seattle VA regional office, did over 10,000 claims in my first 4 years. So yeah, if you want to know more about benefits, claims, anything like that, I also help people to do trainings and things like that on that. So thanks.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. Doesn't look like we have any more hands, so we'll go ahead and get started. A lot of new faces on the call today. Welcome. This is, it's really good to see. Really, the mission of this meeting is really to bring in our peer navigators, those in our community that are helping walk veterans, their families, our reservists, National Guard, through the process of getting assistance, to really hear from them what's working, what's not working, and where are the gaps, both on a service side and a legislative side. But also a place to share information. As you know, everybody that's come on board and talked about what you can offer, you got a handful of peer navigators that are out there in the trenches every day, connecting with vets and their families, and working to find the right resources for them. So thank you very much for being here today, and hope to see your faces and moving forward as we move along. What's after mission? I'm sorry, I'm winging it today. I don't have the agenda, but thanks for holding it down for us, Emil.
No, you're good. And Tessa is here, I see, and standing reports is next, from starting with federal government.
All right, so standing reports, we get into just any legislative updates. Generally, we have Janet Turner on the call. Janet, are you on the call?
I did not see her on the participant list right now.
All right, we'll move over to Andrew Strain with GLA. I didn't see Paul on here, but just reiterate, really, I've heard great feedback about the same-day access line that the VA's created for homeless veterans. It's available Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4 p.m. The number's right there, 310-268-3350. So just reminding everybody about that resource. Director O'Mara, are you on the call today?
Jim, there was some events, and I'm sorry, everyone, I had a technical problem with my internet this morning, so thanks for everyone for pitching in. But there is an in-person hiring event that's sponsored by VACO, and I can post information about that in the chat. But we'll be hiring for a VBA. They're looking to fill some new positions.
Great. Any other events, Tess?
Not for VBA. So I'm going back to the planning office. So as you all likely may or may not know, there's a real push to get veterans into the housing on the West LAVA campus. So currently lease up is occurring for buildings 207, which is 62 and over, HUD-VASH eligible, 30% AMI, and 205 and 208, which are 50 and 60% AMI, no age restrictions. So if you're interested or have someone that needs housing that's eligible, there's something called the housing choice form. If you're an SSVF provider, you can submit it directly to HUD-VASH yourself on behalf of the veteran, but veterans are able to designate that they would like to live at the West LAVA campus, and applications are currently being fielded. So if there's questions about that, just post in the chat and I can get information to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tess. Moving over to local government updates. Mr. Alvarez, are you on the call today?
I'm on, sir.
Any updates for the group?
Just a couple of quick updates. So yesterday, the Board of Supervisors had a follow-up to their emergency homelessness declaration. One of the directives in the next actions that were approved yesterday was having Director Zenner work internally within the county to understand the different services that are provided to veterans experiencing homelessness through different county departments. So subsequently, we will also be looking at working with our state, federal partners and some of our other community partners to try to integrate our efforts and do a much more streamlined approach. There were a bunch of other directives, so the board is really looking to make a couple of changes internally to the way that the county is operating, both in hiring practices and contracting. There's just a bunch of information in that motion, but hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we will start hearing information. And Director Zerner, I know you will have a couple more updates in subsequent meetings. Additionally, I wanted to remind everybody that the supervisor will be hosting the 25th annual Tribute to Veterans and Military Families at Arcadia County Park on Saturday, May 27th. If anyone is interested in terms of organizations and requesting exhibitor space, the Eventbrite page for that event has been launched. I will post it in the chat. I'm also posting my email address, so if anybody has any questions, just email me and we can chat offline.
Great, thank you, sir. Anybody else from Board of Supervisors or local government on the call? All right. Yeah, just follow up with what Mr. Alvarez was saying. Our department's really looking forward to convening county departments. Already had conversations with Calvet and VA, and they're very eager to come to the table as well, just to look to streamline services and identify barriers and providing recommendations back to the county. I will be working directly with CEO Homeless Initiative on that project, and Steve and Jen and any other of our homeless chairs definitely will be reaching out to you to discuss that further and get your insight.
Jim, I forgot to mention, can you briefly talk about SkillBridge and what we finally accomplished in the last week or two?
Yeah. So really exciting. There was a board motion one of 3 board motions November 1st with veterans. So the county is really looking at ways to tackle the transitioning service member issue and really get out in front of folks that are transitioning back to LA County. And part of that includes entering into an agreement with ICMA, which is International City and County Government, or International City and County Management Association, to recruit folks that are on active duty into the SkillBridge program, which is a program where the DoD will pay for their salary for 6 months while they do a fellowship out in the community, either with private or public sector. And so with our 37 plus county departments, we're looking to provide opportunities to men and women transitioning out of the military to come here to LA to do a fellowship with one of our county departments. And then hopefully, ultimately, our goal is getting them hired in the county government. We're also looking to partner with other businesses in the private sector as well, so that if it doesn't, if they, for whatever reason, they don't like public sector, or we don't have an open opportunity for them, that they have a network of opportunities waiting for them here in Los Angeles County. Also looking at hiring preferences, revamping our hiring preferences to include our National Guard and reservists, which is really exciting. As we know, we ask a lot of our reserve component folks, and creating an opportunity to attract more of them into the county government is extremely exciting. So anything that I missed, sir?
No, sir. I think you've got it all. Thank you.
All right. Over to VSO legislative updates. Richard, are you on the call? He might still be in DC, I think. All right, over to Christina for any VPAN updates.
Hey, Jim. Hey, everyone. Christina. Barraza here with SoCal Grant Makers. Just the one thing I wanted to put out was the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training, ASSIST training coming up March 25th and 22nd and 23rd at Bob Hope Patriotic Hall. It's a 2-day training. Let me know if you're interested. I'll put the information in the chat. And from now, I'm going to pass it on to the Rally Point updates, because we have a lot going on, not only hiring, but Rally Point updates. So I'll pass it on to JBS SD1.
All right. Good morning, and thank you, Christina. And yes, just a little caveat behind the ASSIST training. It is open to all community members, so it's not specific for our veteran community. So if we have any other skilled workers or just members of the communities interested in signing up for this 2-day preventative assist suicide prevention training, feel free to look into that. So, and I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Leo Chirinos. I'm with VPAN, Program Manager for Supervisorial District 1, part of JBS SoCal. And it's always a pleasure to see everyone. So thank you very much for this opportunity again. We'll go ahead and touch base with some of our leading service types that we've been providing to the community here. Our leading one is income support, followed by benefits navigation, and then followed by individual and family support. And not far behind was actually housing. We started to notice an increase of housing cases coming through. So I think that's on the rise, but that's what we've been faced with at least the past month. Barriers, it's just the housing, access to housing, you know, relatively quickly, and maybe rental arrears. We're still trying to have some support on the back end there to support people with rental arrears. So that would be one of our barriers. As far as upcoming events, we have a few. There's actually one going on this Saturday, February 11th at Whittier Narrows. It's going to be in support of 42 Mike Women's Veterans Golf Mixer. So they'll be hosting, I think, about 36 women veterans already registered. It'll be a 2-hour clinic followed by 9-hole and some other activities for our Sisters in Arms. So we have that coming up February 11th. We're currently in the process of trying to host a veteran tax prep here at our rally point, hopefully by the end of the month, February 28th. That's still tentative. So we'll be pushing that out as soon as we get the chance. And then the other events I wanted to bring out was the Veteran Support Group every Thursday, starting, I believe it's February 23rd at Bob Hope. It'll be from 12 to 1. So that's another opportunity for veterans to just come and have a safe space to share. There'll be some refreshments provided, and just basically socialize and interact with one another in a safe space. And that's all I have. I will send it over to District 2.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christina Reingold. I'm the clinical supervisor with Volunteers of America, Los Angeles, SD2. The top 3 services that we've been providing in the last month is individual support, along with legal and benefits and navigation. Last month, we did one outreach event, which kind of goes into barriers for us. It's been staff attrition. We also have, last month we did an office relocation, so just making some adjustments there. But on the upside, we are currently hiring. We had a new peer that started last week. We have a prospective service coordinator that'll be starting, and also hiring, in the process of hiring another peer. So that's really exciting. Also at the new location, I will put the address in the chat. We relocated from Compton to the city of Hawthorne, which is exciting. And at this new location, what we're expecting to be doing starting this month is having monthly events here at the location, so that way we can really promote where we are. And yeah, so I'll pass it on to SD3.
Good morning, teammates. My name is Frederick Marion. I'm the service coordinator here at the Granada Hills office. Our top 3 services that we provided last month was individual family support, housing and shelter, as well as benefits navigation. Upcoming events, we are planning a Wellness Day in the month of March, more information to follow. And we are currently still hiring for a couple of positions. We have a battle buddy position available, as well as a squad leader position. So if you know any veterans out there seeking employment here in the San Fernando Valley, Granada Hills area to be exact, please let us know or let Christina know, and we'll gladly interview and look for another teammate to help support. That's all we have right now, and I'll pass it over to SD4.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jesse Mendoza. I'm the program manager. Our rally point is at the Battleship Iowa in San Pedro, California. So I'll give a quick highlight a few items before I turn it over to our service coordinator, Bernice, and she's going to go ahead and go into detail. One of the things that we were really excited about is that we were acknowledged by the DoD, Department of Defense, SD4, as a service provider servicing the veterans that are coming out of the Los Alamitos area. So that was something we were proud, about, and we want to thank, all of VPAN and Jim and everyone that's been behind us on this and supporting us. So we were recognized by General Daniels as a official service provider, DoD. Also, we've been building out a rally point in the city of Paramount that's midway of the whole district, and that's something that we're starting to see more interest, more foot traffic. So we're we have some plans that are coming out of that hub in Paramount. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to our service coordinator, Bernice, and she'll go ahead and give us, she'll read off our top three. Go ahead, Viv.
Hi, good morning, all. My name is Berenice. Like Jess mentioned, I am the service coordinator. For SD4, our top three services are benefits and navigation, also individual family support, and as well with employment. The barriers we did have are housing and shelter, and income support. For January, pretty much like Jess mentioned, and then January was a month for team building. For upcoming events for the month of March, we do have a Wellness Day locked in for March 25th at St. Luke's Church in the city of Long Beach. And also SD4 is having we're hosting a Veterans Breakfast Day in the city of Downey, and we're looking into for the dates of March 11th or the 18th. And for this month, we do have peers and training for the RI training. And that's about it. I'll pass it on to SD5.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Guevara, Marine Corps veteran, also Supervisor District 5, VPAN. With that being said, I want to say, let me start off with we started off with 15 outreach events this coming up week, and then after that we did our top three is individual and family support number 1, income support number 2, and then housing and shelter number 3. Upcoming events that we have coming up, we are going to start doing in partnership with UCLA, the Veteran Family Wellbeing Center. We're going to start holding groups here at the rally point at SD5. So it'll be 237 Columbia Way, 93535 Lancaster. With that, also we're going to also be working on creating a women's group, a veterans women's group up here, and we're going to have a different type of event with that. Also, as far as a special shout out to SD3 and of course the VFW Post 3834 for San Fernando for allowing us to do veteran informational at their post, and it was very interesting to see brand new veterans coming through, looking to find out how to get what benefits to support them. Agencies, also all the vendors that came out was I think a great success. It shows a lot of what SC3 is capable of doing, does a lot of work, and I really want to give kudos to them before we go into the shout outs and everything. On top of that, we were able to hold 2 events at the same time. So we were able to do a northbound team was taking care of an event up in Lancaster, while the southbound team was working in collaboration with SD3 for everything else. So definitely want to say a special thank you for all those SD3 battle buddies and Alex, the squad leader, really putting in work and doing what they have to do to make things happen. So other than that, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, I'm always open to those. Other than that, that's all I have for you today.
Great, thanks, VPAN. Tess, did you have the next section, or do you want me to? Looks
Sorry
like
about
homelessness and housing.
Yeah.
Steve, Jen?
Mhm. Go for it. Do we have anyone from the Homelessness and Housing Working Group?
Good morning, all. Today's Homeless and Housing Working Group will be reviewing some things at the national level. The VA has compiled statistics on their successes in addressing veteran homelessness in 2022 and announced some aggressive goals for 2023. They've also put out a NOFA to use grant per diem money in case management into housing. So there's several months time to prepare for this, and we want to get talking about it to make sure that LA gets some high quality applications in for that innovative program. We'll also review a request from the National Center on Homelessness among Veterans for veterans with lived experience in homelessness to volunteer to be interviewed for a study that they're doing to improve VA policy on homelessness. It comes with a stipend. We'll review the city and county homeless declarations and what they will mean on the ground. We'll spend some time on the silo busting declaration that you discussed a few minutes ago. So we'll be able to provide wise counsel to Jim Zenner as he responds to that declaration. We'll be reviewing briefly the VASH collaborative case management pilot that the county is getting started. That's an innovative program that will address vets with bad paper who otherwise have a lot of difficulty accessing and using the VASH program. We'll spend a little bit of time on Inside Safe, talk about the LA City mansion tax lawsuit, but I think it's going to become a regular agenda item for a working group. We're going to talk about referrals to project-based VASH units. It's not enough just to get those buildings built. We then need to get them leased and keep them leased. And the importance of that was, we were reminded of the importance of that in this morning's Los Angeles Times. It is possible for very good nonprofits who are providing permanent supportive housing for homeless, including homeless vets, to run into financial trouble. And one good way to help them avoid that is to help them promptly lease their VASH PVV buildings. So we'll be talking about any impediments in that regard and what we can do to improve that process. Thanks, Jim.
Great, thanks, Steve. Anything, Jen or Melanie, anybody else? I see Amanda's next too. All right, Amanda, are you on the call? All right. And then we heard last month from our partners over at Housing for Health with the other than honorable or non-VHA eligible VASH vouchers. So no additional updates on that.
All right. Next, we have Unite Us. So Noah or Neil, take it away.
Absolutely. So, hey, everyone, my name is Anil. I work under Amy, Los Angeles Veterans Collaborative, and looking at the stats. So I will say my report will be probably a good 10 minutes today because I am going to look at the year review of all of last year as well as January. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to pull it up right now. And then we can actually, let me share the other one. January. So I'm going to start with the year review, and then I'll go into going into the month. Okay, so I will make this large. All right, so 2022, who we served. Army was the biggest branch that we served. In terms of gender, 74% of our individuals that came through our doors, anyone's doors that came through LAVC, were male. 20% were female. So just looking at the year overall, that's exciting to see, right? Like the 20% over the couple months, we've been seeing that 24, 25, 22. So we're absolutely seeing more female veterans, and that's exciting, as that's a place that we want to continue increasing. In terms of growth of our safety net, right? When we think about who we are and the ease of access, we had about 347 new clients, right? That doesn't include past clients. That doesn't include someone that's come back. These are new clients per month. And then when we look at referred cases, about on average 528 per month. And again, this is all throughout the entire year of 2022. I want to remind everyone that this is what we are looking at. And then in terms of managed referred cases, about 350 a month, whether that's someone following up, whether that's someone not responding. And I do see a hand. Go ahead, and I want to make sure I answer questions as we go.
Hi, maybe I should just wait till after your report. I'm Chef Basil.
No problem. Then I will continue. In terms of our average time to referral acceptance, that stayed very consistent. So there was a couple of months that we were able to respond right away, and it actually in the averages, it was less than a day. It was like 0.6, so that's fantastic. So that one day is our average time to that referral acceptance over the entire year. In terms of quality of care, resolved cases, 8,238 resolved cases. That's 65% of those, or sorry, service episodes. Let me reverse. 65% of the service episodes are resolved. 1,425 are still open. And then there is still a good 24% that are not resolved. Again, losing contact, not having contact information, that email, that phone number. So I would encourage, please, please, please try to get many contact ways that you can to stay in touch with individuals. Then we look at decreasing homelessness, suicide, and unemployment. Right? When we look at housing, we can see the number of cases currently open. We can look at the cases that are managed, and then same thing for employment and mental health. So we can see these numbers in terms of housing cases managed, 1,314. In terms of employment, 792. And in terms of mental health or behavioral health, 613. So top 10 for referrals. And again, this is for the entire year, not just for a month, for the entire year. We see the receiving organizations on the left, and then the top 10 for sending on the right. SD2 coming in strong at the top for sending organizations. So congrats, keep up the work. Keep using this network. This is why we have created this network, is to be able to allow you all to send referrals, to be able to get into that door and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. If we use our network, that's going to be the opportunity that we have to really make sure that vet or that family member is taken care of. And that's why we're using this approach, is to really have that opportunity to connect them to that right service right away. In terms of needs, I think this is always interesting in terms of what was the need for 2021 and then what we look at for 2022. For 2021, it was housing as number 1 and benefits navigation number 2. We see that housing dropped to number 3 for 2022, still an issue, but has gone down just a little bit. Benefits navigation has gone up to number 1, and then individual family support, that's gone from number 4 in 2021 to number 2 in 2022. Income support has also gone up, and employment has dropped. And not in saying that we don't need that support, it's still in the top 5. Right, there's many other options, but that's still, it's gone down to number 5 from number 3. And again, this is my job to be able to look at these trends, right? It's great to see the work that is being done to make housing and shelter go from being number 1 to being number 3, right? So we see that the work that we're doing is impactful. You know, one thing that I was looking at, right, when we look at trends, is this August right here, right? August seems to be a big month for benefits navigation. It looks to be a big one for individual and family support. It looked to be a big one for mental health, looked to be a big one for employment, and looked to be a big one for legal, right? So August is that month, and that's just an interesting thing to look at as we look at trends. The only one that was bigger was September for housing and shelter. So that's where that one peaked. And then if we look again, right, I'm looking at multiple years now. So this is the one for 2022. Now I'm going to look at 2021 and 2022. So above, at the top part is 2021. The bottom part is 2022. And no, I want to put this out there. All of 2021, we are ramping up. We are ramping up to using the platform, making sure that we have the referrals. But we can still see, right, August and September tend to be these 2 months that have these challenges spike. So that's just interesting information for us as we continue to look at all this information. I'm going to go ahead and share the other one. If we have questions, go ahead and jump in and ask some questions as I share the new one.
Anil, was there any additional update on those jumps in August and September?
And by additional updates, what do you mean?
Was there a spike in a certain type of request? Was it just a flood of new individuals, or what was it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's something that I can absolutely dig further into. But when I looked at, I look at the top 10 per se service requests, or where we're needing that support. So when we look at August, and I can bring this back up, that spike per se was in those couple areas. For 2022, right, we see benefits navigation was a spike. We see individual and family support was a spike. And then we see employment support, and then mental health. Some of this is, part of me thinking, whether it's families, whether it's kids, there is that transition, right? There's another transition in terms of schools. And that's just off the top of my head. I don't have the specific answer. And as we dig further, right, this is just my first take in terms of digging in of that transition and that extra support being needed.
Okay, got it. I'll reach out to you and we'll talk about this one offline. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm going to share my screen for January. Again, go ahead and feel free if you all have questions. This is why I do this. Oops. Why is this sharing the same one again? January, share. All right. Right. PowerPoint. All right. So in terms of January, just this last month, Army still the biggest branch. In terms of gender, this is what I was talking about. Female, 22% this month. Really looking at continuing to increase that. We also see in terms of age, that 26 to 35 and 36 to 45 being our biggest range. When we look at grants, when we look at ways to better support, right now for this month, it was this age range. Now it tends to change and vacillate. So I will say that some months we are on the other side in terms of 56 to 65, 66 to 75 and supporting those individuals. So just again, something for us to look at on a month-to-month basis and that annual review when we look at that. Growth of that safety net, 450 new clients, referred cases, 413, 314 were managed. 1 day average, right? So that's fantastic. Quality care. So in terms of from last month, right, December 2022 to 2023, January, our service episodes resolved went down 6%. So just looking at how do we make sure that we take the time to work through, make sure we have all the information, and our number of episodes not resolved, unresolved stayed about that 6%. So that didn't increase or decrease. In terms of, again, housing, employment, and mental health, we look at the amount of cases that are managed, 81 for housing, 63 for employment, and 56 for mental health. Okay. And again, this can mean different things. That can mean they found housing. That means they didn't need that support anymore, right? So those cases managed have different meanings as well. Top 10 for referrals. So again, this is just for the month at this point. MVA, and then we have VPAN SD1, SD2 for receiving, April Parker Foundation, and SD3, rounding up the top 5. And then top 10 for sending, VPAN SD1. So I do want to pull anybody from SD1. What's your biggest tip on sending those referrals and making sure we get those out?
So real quick, we just make sure with the receiving organizations that they're able to follow up on those, and we'll follow up as within the week to make sure that they're on top of it as well. But a lot of the navigating is just the connections with organizations that we know about.
Absolutely. And thanks for jumping on, right? I think this is the important part where we can show and support that success, right? So that I hear two parts. There's one thing to sending that referral, and then there's a second tier of we have a timeline in terms of when we check in with the person or when we check in with the agency. So having that rapport and continuing to build that into our processes, making sure that we have these processes to continue to increase the support that we are providing to our population. Okay, top 5 needs, again, 2022, all of 2022, and now I'm looking just at the month, right? So individual and family support for this month was higher and needed. Income support was higher as well. Benefits navigation was lower for the month. Housing and shelter was lower for the month, and employment just about this, again, rounding off the top 5 and staying in there. Okay, that's it for my presentation. I know that was a little long and there was a lot of data, but I wanted to make sure to showcase both presentations as we look at the entire year as well as just an entire month. Please feel free to reach out. I'll put my email in the chat. I know that we have a hand raised, so please feel free to ask.
Yes, good afternoon or good morning to everybody. This is my first time on here. My name is Chef Basil, and I am the chair of the California Democratic Party Veterans Caucus. And I must say, this is the best group I've ever seen or heard. I am very impressed. I was invited by Dr. Banks. I am a former homeless Army veteran who was drugged out, getting out of the service, who hit rock bottom, who went to jail and prison for 13 months and didn't have anything. I had mental PTSD, I had it all. And I was very fortunate to have a good wife that I have now, my third wife, who showed me the way, who got me mental help, who took me to the VA, who went to college, who put me in culinary school. I'm a top chef from Le Cordon Bleu. I won the National Gold Medal Award for helping veterans. And I'm just so impressed that I'm glad to be part of this. One thing that I wanted to ask the young man, we deal with, I noticed I didn't see a report on sexual assault towards the females. That I did not see, and we can talk about that at some later point, which is very, very high at this given point, and always has been high. And I know all of you know that every 22 days, a veteran commits suicide. At some point, maybe at our next convention, I would love to have or invite your key people. I don't even know who the chair, who's the chairman? Who's the president? I'm sorry.
You're good. So Amy's in charge of the Los Angeles Veterans Collaborative
Okay.
in terms of putting it all together. And then we also do have a women's working group as well in terms of if you're looking specifically
Yes.
for military sexual trauma or trauma in that space. And definitely feel free when we have our working groups later today to be able to jump in with that group.
And Neil,
Yes,
if I can also add to one of the things that I would like to point out, sir. So I work for Supervisor Catherine Barker on the LA County Board of Supervisors, and one of the things that I will say that we've seen work really well with this group is the collaboration between the county Board of Supervisors, Director Jim Zenner, who's the director of the County Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. We've been working to really support the Veterans Collaborative, and we've been really changing the way that local government looks at veterans issues. So instead of saying, this is up to our partners at the VA, CalVet, and nonprofits to work on it, we're working collaboratively, and that if I can get you to take one thing away from this meeting is the importance of having local government work collaboratively with the veteran community. I mean, you've got every type of organization represented on here, but again, it's a collaborative effort between everybody.
Excellent.
One of the things that I will say is there's very little to no egos here, which makes.
Yeah, I noticed that. And that's the other thing that I was, in fact, as you were all giving your report, I was typing, I was streaming to like my other 450 people, like, jump on here, you guys need to see this. You guys are very professional, and I look forward to addressing you at some other point, or having you address our group. I like your reports. Your reports are the young, I don't even know how do you pronounce your name, sir? The man that just gave a report.
Anil, and again,
Anil.
we're all a team. It's not just me. It's only because
Yeah,
we all.
no,
work on it
and
together.
I understand that. I just really appreciate all, and I look forward to having other people getting joined in this. Also, before I go, I think other people need to know about it. I own 18 different publications that go out to 54 million people a day. The information you shared today, the nation needs to know, because we hurt so bad. You guys have well, yes, you do. I saw some veterans on here. Us veterans, men and women, especially the women, they hurt so bad because they don't know where to go. They just don't know where to go. And I think this group here, and I'm going to really promote this group as a group that can be referred to on our web. I'm going to put your website, or whatever you have, on our website. In fact, if you notice in your chat room, I've already put our Veterans Caucus website. I'm going to add your link, because I think people need to know who you are.
Yeah, well, wait till you find out about our VPAN model and the work that we're doing there. So
okay,
connect with Director Zenner, who can tell you more about the work that we've done. So I'll hand it over to the experts. But
okay,
from a legislative perspective, just wanted to give you that perspective.
All right, and one last thing. At some point, I don't know who likes what, but I'm going to cook you all some macaroon. And then I'm gonna some creme brulee, and I'll break it down to you guys one day.
Well, thank you so much for that. It means the world to all of our partners, and we just have a really great community here. So in regards to time, we've got a couple minutes left. We are at the section of what's working, what's not working, snaps up. That was a pretty huge snap up. So we'll open the floor for anyone who has things to add.
BSCKRO, your hand's raised.
Hi, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna see if I can pull up my video really quickly. Hey, so it's my first time. Thank you for allowing me to speak really quickly. This is my first time joining you guys. I was referred by a couple of people. I am working to try to get a program that I created, implemented at VA Medical Center, VHA, on West LA campus, in kind of, as they're dealing with the newest lawsuit about using the land. And I've developed this program for about 3.5 years. I'm a formerly homeless veteran myself. I served 10 years in the Army, and thankfully, currently I'm working at VBA in Los Angeles. And I was just wondering who I can reach out to contact about presenting my homelessness program to end veteran homelessness using a model that I created initially when I was working at UCLA with their the neonatal intensive care unit. And so that model fits what we need to end veteran homelessness. And I know people say that all the time, and it probably sounds kind of maybe arrogant or lofty, but I've presented this program, like I said, for about 3.5 years to different organizations, really honing down on the components and how they all fit together. And what's great is that VA already has all of the pillars that are needed. It's just kind of the psychosocial stuff that's implemented in, but all of these things already exist. And so ultimately the goal is to be able to get this pilot project started on the campus of West LA. And so I'm hoping that I can have an opportunity to talk to you guys about it and, lay it out and see what you guys think in terms of any potential holes or things like that that you guys might see.
Yeah, I missed your name. I'm sorry, but Jim Zenner with LA County.
I'm sorry, it's Kenitha. I forget it's not showing up on here. I didn't type it in, but it's Kenitha Roberts. And I designed it as a 5-year pilot project, but it would house 1,600 veterans in 3.5 to 4 years, using the home structures and the benefit components that we have. And like I said, I'm a formerly homeless veteran. I was at UCLA in charge of the research program there, and I was a professor when I lost both of my jobs due to a downturn in the economic downturn. This was 2008. So I was homeless, my daughter and I, for 2.5 years. And I had never used my VA, but only my VA education had I used up until that point. And so I was able to survive off of savings for about a year. But after my savings ran out, we lost our place. I was, staying in a storage unit. At one point, I have a PhD, but I started taking all of my education off of all of my, applications, and I started working at a storage unit so that I could sleep there at night. I slept in my car until it was repossessed. I couch surfed with a lot of different family members. And thankfully, I was able to get on the HUD VASH program. I was on the waiting list for about 2 years. But, finally, when the voucher became available, anyway, sorry, I don't mean to go on and on. But going through that process and coming out on the other side helped me identify a lot of the components that I've drawn together in this presentation. And it's been, I've spoken to Feinstein's office, Ted Lieu's office. I'm working with the VA Secretary's office, and have been in communication with leadership at West LA. So I would love to get feedback from you guys, because y'all are the ones that know. I'm reading what everybody's putting in the chat, and I'm sorry, I'll stop. I just get really.
It's Kenisa, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yeah, Jim Zenner with LA County. I put my contact information there. I'm currently working to put together recommendations for the county on behalf of homeless vets. So I would love to connect with you. And then Tess Banco, T Banco at usvets.org. She's actually working on their redevelopment project on West LA. I would recommend connecting with her as well. And then
nice.
Anybody else that's interested in connecting with Kenisa, please put your contact information in the chat and indicate.
And I'll put mine there too as well. I'm sorry.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to take up your time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kenitha. Thank you. It was great to see you present at the VCOEB in previous months. I remember seeing
you were there.
Yes.
Man, that was a quick presentation. That's 5 minutes. I tried to, but man, it was tough. But that 5 minutes, I was just like, I just want to try to paint the picture. So, thank you, though. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. If there are follow-up items, please post them in the chat. We're regularly reading that. We're adding, your resources to upcoming events, news you can use. William Wilson has been putting that together and distributing it to all members. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Amy.
Thank you. Thank you, Tess. For the sake of time, we're just going to continue rolling in. If you need to take a break, stretch, grab some water, use the restroom, please do so. It's being recorded, and we do provide this in the follow-up email. A copy of the recording that's posted on YouTube. So don't feel like you're missing out on anything. So welcome to the month of February. It is Black History Month. There's a lot of amazing events going on throughout the community to honor the service of those throughout the, so again, sorry, I got, excuse me. There's a lot of events going on throughout the county, so please look out for those. We post them on our social media. I know the VPAN team is also participating and engaging in them. Just take the time to learn some of the history of our Black and African American service members who have come before and who are currently serving now. And right now, we're going to continue going on with some of the working group updates. We have Cesar Gonzalez from our higher education working group who's going to give an update on what's happening, what's going on in his working group. Again, we want to make sure that everyone on this call, if you're able to stay on for the entire length of the LAVC, we would greatly appreciate it. It's very important for us. Again, as you heard from the Access and Engagement, we're talking about barriers, we're talking about legislation. And then during the main meeting, we focus on just giving updates on different programs and ways to get involved. And then after this, at 11, we start our actual working groups. We have 10 different working groups that are focused on very specific veteran issues. So we'd love for you all to hang around, actually join a working group, actively participate, help us come up with solutions for the barriers that were brought up. And essentially, that's how we would like you to get involved. And with that, I will pass it over to Cesar for an update.
Unmuting me would actually work. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Great to see a lot of new faces and also a lot of my colleagues here. I just want to remind everybody that we have a higher education working group. This is a great opportunity to get information in higher education, whether you're trying to get specific information for the CSUs, the UCs, or private institutions, deadlines, application process, criteria either for you or clients that you're working with. Obviously, we want our student veterans to continue in their higher education. Obviously, a lot of them started at community college, so we have connections at local community colleges that we can also connect your clients or for you as well. I see here we have Alex aboard. Alex is a major great resource up at Cal State Fullerton. He's so knowledgeable in providing great information to all of our students, and he's very enthusiastic. So we have great people to help assist, guide. So if you know anybody that wants to continue their higher education or for yourself, please don't hesitate. Stop by our working group at 11. I don't know it all, folks, so I definitely will make sure I get your information and get back to you and really connect you with vital people that are going to help you, guide you, and help our veterans go to the next level. So thank you so much. Thank you, Amy, for the time.
Thank you, Cesar. I know we had our legal who was going to give an update, but I don't think I see Amanda on the call yet. So with that, again, I know there's a lot of new faces on this call, so I guess I always forget. My name is Amy Bravo. I'm the director of the Los Angeles Veterans Collaborative, Air Force veteran, transition from active duty, still currently in the reserves. If anyone needs to get a hold of me, I will put my email inside of the chat. Again, if you signed up through Eventbrite and you click that you are new, I will be reaching out personally with you again, just to, I know this meeting could be a little overwhelming, just to give a little insight. And I just like to remind people, this is a transactional relationship, right? We would like for you to come here with your thoughts, with your insight, with your events, with your programs, and share it with our community. That's what we're focused on, is best practices and really truly working together to remove the barriers that our service members and their family members experience when they're trying to access care. So with that, we have our first presenter. I'm going to introduce Ms. Tabitha Maddox, an MSW from Psych Armor, who's going to be talking to us a little bit about the digital divide. Tabitha?
Morning, everyone, and happy Black History Month. Let's see, can I share my screen by any chance?
Yes, you should have the option to share your screen.
Oh, just got to find the right button. There it goes. Now, can you all see it now that I've gone?
Yep, we see.
Okay, great. All right, now we're rocking. Hello, everyone. My name is Tabitha Maddox. I am a project manager at Psych Armor, disabled Army veteran. And today we're going to be talking about our pitch for the digital divide. This is just a quick introduction to an initiative that we have, so that if you all are interested, you can follow up and we'll get the full presentation to you all. So to get into it, we want to understand what the digital divide even is. It's currently being defined as those who have access to modern information and communication technology and those who don't. And so that's primarily rural folks, maybe some elderly folks, or maybe some folks who just simply can't afford either the internet access or the hardware and software needed to navigate actually being on the internet. And this impacts every social determinant of health. Everything on our lives these days is ran on the internet, given just look at how many people we get to participate in this meeting because of the internet. So, you know, when we think about someone not having the ability to, you know, emotionally, socially, or spiritually connect with other folks that are not physically in their community, you know, applying to different jobs or accessing any sort of banking needs, because that's all basically online completely. And then also looking at the physical and environmental impacts of not having internet. A lot of places like the VA are trying to digitize things with telehealth and ordering your prescription refills online and those sorts of things. So having access to the internet and the hardware and software needed to do that safely is a high need within certain communities. How that impacts veterans specifically is what we can see here. This is just a quick data point, one of the many from the FCC's 2019 research project that they put out. Some perceived barriers to internet connectivity are a lack of deployment where they live, meaning there's just not service available where folks live. The price, and then the digital illiteracy or perceived irrelevance. And what that really means is folks who, you know, I've got a grandparent myself who's, I've gone this long without a phone. Why do I need to get on now? So it's a lot of education around the benefits of having access to the internet, even if you don't want to use it every day. To the right here, we have some actual data points from that same report, just showing internet usage by veterans. And we can see that just slightly over half use it once per week or less, with about 30% having no access or no usage at all. And that leads us to our call to action. So like I said, this is just a quick pitch for you all to know that we are giving a full presentation to talk about the impacts of a lack of digital access in more detail, and specific resources and what you can do to actually help folks get connected to the internet. So if you're interested, I can field, well, I don't know if there's time in the agenda to field questions right now, but if there is, I can take questions now, or if you're interested, you can reach out to Gloria. She's our event manager at PsychArmor. And I'll also put my own email in the chat function. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you all for listening.
Yes, we definitely do have time for a Q&A. So please feel free. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand, unmute yourself, and ask away.
Well, I'm just going to pretend that was the best pitch I've ever given in my life, and you all are just like, you know, really ready for it. So thank you all for your time.
Thanks. Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you so much. Again, PsychArmor is a really great resource for additional training. I know they focus on having their military cultural competency as well. So if you don't have enough, if you haven't looked at it before, please feel free to do so. It looks like we do have a question. Veteran Chambers, Jack.
Yes, I just wanted to build on something she just said. The Veteran Chamber of Commerce, during this whole COVID lockdown, our members made it crystal clear they're not doing Zoom. They just didn't have the technology know-how. So we've been forced to move into in-person with limited, we're trying to move back because the veterans made it clear they do not want to do this. They're not comfortable with the technology. They don't trust it. So we're having to just do strictly in person, which has made it a little challenging because not a lot of venues are available to start. I mean, they have now, but they weren't available last year and the year before. But we see that challenge is out there. And that's one of the things that we're hoping, that resources like this are available so that we can start bridging this gap and start creating the confidence that these veterans need. Thank you for this resource.
Thank you, Jack. It looks like there's a question in the chat. Asking who is included in the stats. Are we sure it's representative? Did it include veterans, those in veteran care homes? The percent with no access seems high.
And I'm sorry, repeat that. The question is that a percent without access seems high.
The question is, who was included in the stats? Are we sure it is representative? Did it include those in veteran care homes? Those are the questions.
Right. So I will drop a link to the FCC 2019 report that was specifically referenced in this pitch deck. We have worked with Comcast, who has also done their own in-depth research. So you're welcome to find it there. It was a self-report survey type. So you can look at the specifics around which demographics of veterans specifically answered there. But the table that we showed, the bar graph, is just a general outcomes sort of thing. It encompasses every veteran who answered the survey.
Hi, Tabitha. My name is Ben Caswell. I wanted to alert you to a group, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. We attended a summit last week, and they have they're very focused on veteran caregivers, but they're also sponsored in large measure by Comcast Universal, and they're a national organization with chapters everywhere, and that might be a good source for you to find the support and access to others who need your assistance.
Great. Yeah, thank you. We do. Yep. As it's in the chat. We do have a connection with EDF already, and this project is sponsored through Comcast. So we've been in communication with the whole digital divide. I'll call it consortium. I don't know what their official title is, but there's a couple of organizations already working together, and we got looped in to help spread the message. So yeah, thank you.
Jimmy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges I've noticed with not having with in-person everything, I guess in general, is that a lot of our, at least what I can say, with the post 9/11 generation veterans, we have that challenge when it comes to not having access to internet, right? Due to the spaces that we have. I don't know if many are aware, but Los Angeles County is a very big county. Just traveling from the very top of Antelope Valley all the way down to, let's say down to Torrance, takes about 4 hours to 3 hours, pretty much takes half a day. So by having in-person things, it kind of reduces and limits the access to these information and support. And I always bring that up because that's one of the biggest barriers we run into every time we need access and support. On the other side of the coin, I understand that there's also that generation gap where many don't know how to use or have access. So a lot of times it's always reaching out and having a conversation like, what organization can we bring forward to divide it, like to be able to bring that divide, especially to a lot of the advocates that are maybe sitting in senior homes or sitting there where we got to go out there and actually be able to provide that information as well. Because a lot of times even doing telehealth and I'll give you an example, some individuals live on the second floor with no ADS accessibility. And guess what? They're not going to, it's a big risk for a lot of our older veterans to go down and to get on their vehicle and then come back up and may get hurt. And I've already seen a couple of falls out here just for that same reason. And that's the only reason I bring it up.
Right. Yeah. A big part of the full presentation is how can we educate VSO, directors and caseworkers and those sorts of things to understand what the barriers are and what they can concretely do to address them. Some of this is also going to come down to a budgetary issue. I can't control how much money folks get to be able to go door to door and reach out to maybe super rural areas. I did get to speak with Wanda, I'm forgetting her last name. She's the director of veteran affairs for the whole state of Arizona, and she was listing very similar concerns about rural access, especially for tribal folks. So yeah, that's a part, it's been a huge consideration for the full presentation we give, talking about all of the barriers folks might have so that the people who have the ability to, have a computer at work, they can get people connected, they can understand some of that intersectionality behind it.
Hi, I just want to say thank you. The digital divide, I often think about that as well. Because of the fact that sometimes it's just overwhelming for people, right? Like when you try to, work with your phone, they call it a smartphone, right? So I think with the senior veterans, they get overwhelmed with a lot of you really have to know what you're doing. So it's whether you're going to go in pressing buttons, and just trying to figure out what your phone does. So you have to take like a soft approach to teaching people how to use technology, right? Because it can really get overwhelming. I mean, how many of us get overwhelmed when, for some reason our computer's not logging on or the password's not working and things of that nature, right? So like with the younger generation, they'll have everything in a PDF format. I'm a case manager, so whenever I request documents, PDF, immediate. But with the older veterans, it is something different, and it's something new to their eyes, and they see, what it's doing to the generation. So I think we have to keep in mind that they come from a different generation where it was all about connection, personal connection, not this digital stuff. So I think that, when you just spend time with someone like this right here is cool. I mean, it's great. It gives us this ability to connect with one another from the comfort of our home, right? But there is also that humanistic approach where it takes a lot to care for someone and to go into their home and say, hey, how can I help you? Can I, and that's the part that counts, So I like that you bring up the divide because it is a great divide. And I think that another thing is how people can actually become rich off technology, right? So whatever it is that they're doing, and that's going to be another divide that we are, I think we're already in that divide. So anyways, that's all I have to say.
All right, any additional questions, comments, concerns? Thanks for Tabitha. All right. Hearing none, thank you so much, Tabitha, for taking that time to addressing the collaborative. We have another speaker today. We have Alexandra Robinson Norris. She's a Vision 2022 Community Engagement Partnership Coordinator for the West Los Angeles, California catchment area. So she helps to facilitate community, regional, and state level efforts to implement evidence-informed community-based suicide prevention practices. So she helps establish the new community coalitions and partnerships and support existing ones. So she assists communities with identifying care needs and opportunities for support. This includes, but is not limited to, logistical support, coalition building, data surveillance, suicide prevention training, outreach, and program evaluation. So she works closely with the VA suicide prevention team and community members to help enhance and expand current VA suicide prevention efforts. So with that, Alexandra, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Like Amy said, my name's Alex, or Alexandra, but you can call me Alex for short. And I am the Community Engagement and Partnership Coordinator for the West Los Angeles catchment area. I have a PowerPoint that I would like to share, if that's okay. And of course, if at any time you have questions or thoughts, feel free to let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Sorry, 1 second. All right. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yep. We see it.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm just going to go over a little bit. So suicide as a public health issue, some key data, a little bit more about the Community Engagement and Partnership Program and my role. And then at the end, there's just some suicide prevention resources listed as well. So as we all know, suicide is a national problem. It affects both veterans and the general population. And it's not just one factor that can lead somebody to considering suicide. Of course, there's many homelessness, health issues, the list goes on. Coronavirus also did not help either. So veteran VHA users have unique experiences when it comes to their mental health and their overall well-being. So veterans enrolled in VHA are less likely to be employed and have lower income levels than veterans not receiving VHA care. When it comes to service connection, VHA patients with military service-connected disability status may have lower risk of suicide than other VHA patients. Homelessness and poor health, so having sleep disorders, traumatic brain injury, pain diagnosis can also increase the risk of suicide among these VHA users, and the lack of social connection as well. So here's some key data. My apologies if this is something that you all are already familiar with, so I'll just go over it briefly. But from 2001 through 2019, adjusted suicide rates among veterans were still greater and rose faster than for non-veterans, despite the suicide number decreasing. Veterans still tend to die more than non-veteran users or non-veterans, which of course is a big problem. In addition to that, veteran suicides were more likely to involve firearms. If you look at this chart, you can see that for non-veterans, the number of deaths caused by firearms tended to decrease, while for veterans, both male and female tended to increase. And this was from 2001 to 2019, this difference. Despite some of that negative information, there are anchors of hope. 399 fewer veterans died from suicide in 2019 compared to 2018. And then there was nearly 13% 1 year unadjusted rate decrease for female veterans, which represents the largest rate decrease for women veterans in 17 years. So that's good news, of course. And then COVID-19, even though it had an impact on people's well-being, data thus far doesn't show an increase in veteran suicide-related behaviors. So these are just some anchor hopes to hold on to when moving forward with suicide prevention. So now I'm going to go over my role in the Community Engagement and Partnerships Program. Let's see here. My button doesn't want to work. There we go. So sometimes there can be confusion between the SPC, the Suicide Prevention Coordinator, and my role, the CEPC, which is Community Engagement and Partnership Coordinator. The CEPC role isn't meant to duplicate or replace SPC. Rather, it's meant to complement and expand upon what the suicide prevention coordinators are already doing, the wonderful work that they've already implemented and come up with and continue to do. So some of the tasks in my role is to help establish new community coalitions and support existing coalitions or partnerships, facilitate community, regional, and state level efforts to implement evidence-informed, community-based suicide practices, and bolster the public health approach through various ways, such as community engagement, so going out into the community, finding whether it's organizations or groups or individuals who share that vision of ending veteran suicide and bringing them together, or getting in on an existing partnership or coalition and helping them expand what they're doing. So coalition building, needs assessment and environmental scans, so helping groups identify different gaps maybe in the community, whether it's in a program, a suicide prevention program, or just needs in general. Maybe there's a lack of resources available. So other ways, action planning, so helping current coalitions or future coalitions come up with a game plan, implementing systems and community level change initiatives, helping evaluate programs, and of course, sustaining community efforts in those coalitions. So again, both SPCs and myself work together to fully implement that public health approach, combining community and clinical interventions to reach all veterans, because a lot of times the veterans in the community, a lot of them don't go to the VHA for care, and they can kind of be forgotten or not have those resources or go unnoticed. So it's really important to go out into the community and build coalitions or help expand current ones in those efforts, the suicide prevention efforts already being done to reach veterans, whether they're at the VHA or not at the VHA. It's very important. These little bubbles just kind of go over more of my role. So I'm not clinical, I'm 100% administrative. I am an active member of the local VA suicide prevention team, and my main goal is to enhance and expand current VA suicide prevention efforts. And that could be done through education on suicide prevention, as well as coalition building, and supporting current coalitions. So the model that we use in my role is called the Community-Based Intervention Suicide Prevention Unifying Model. And there are 3 priority areas that when I try to establish a new coalition or get in on one that already exists, that we try to have that coalition adopt at least one of these priority areas that then kind of serves as the template for the action planning. What are we going to do as a coalition? How are we going to expand suicide prevention services, etc.? So the first priority area is identifying service members, veterans, their families, and screening for suicide risk. The second priority area is promoting connectedness and helping improve care transitions. And then, of course, the third one is increasing lethal means safety and safety planning for veterans and their families. So community engagement and partnership program, we have some short-term objectives as well as intermediate objectives. So short-term objectives might look like enhanced suicide prevention networks, increased engagement with veterans, increased reach and more adoption of the CVI-SP model, and reducing those gaps in community-based suicide prevention systems. Intermediate objectives helping increase the formal help seeking and use of care, more referrals from multiple sources, just ensuring veterans are getting the care they needed to help prevent suicide. Increase access to safe firearms, storage options. These are just some of the objectives. And the overall population impact that myself as a CPC, along with all the other CPCs and the suicide prevention team, hope to have is, of course, reducing veteran suicide deaths and attempts, reduced all-cause mortality, and reduced suicide ideation. All very important. Here are just some resources that we like to include in the PowerPoint, the CPCs and myself. It's like Armor, of course, Be Safe training, Veteran Crisis Line. There are a lot of great resources that can be provided to veterans for suicide prevention. So that's my PowerPoint. I have a one-page handout if you would like. I can email it. It has my contact information on it and just sort of goes over some of the things that I can do as a CPC if we join up. So that's my presentation. Feel free to ask any questions, thoughts are welcomed. Exit.
Thank you, Alex. Anyone who has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, unmute, and ask away. Also, Alex, there's an option for you to, in the chat, to download that one pager that you were discussing.
Oh, okay, great. Let me find it. Sorry, I'm not too, I still getting familiar with the Zoom more.
No worries at all. Any questions from the group?
Yeah, feel free. Any questions, thoughts?
Phyllis, you have a question?
Yes. Just like the Los Angeles County has a suicide prevention line, often in the veteran community, the veterans feel the veteran community have a unilateral camaraderie. So is there any way it could be put in place, some similar like a crisis line for veterans in this regard, something very personal and private that veterans feel comfortable calling another home site veterans to hear their, how should I say, intended purpose so that they could seek help and give the same guidance as if it was the civilians crisis line.
Yeah, so just to make sure I understood, so having veterans work like a crisis line for other veterans, essentially.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think, there is all kinds of possibilities. It's something that could be looked into. I can meet with the suicide prevention team and kind of talk and see what that might look like. If that would be something maybe with the current coalition that exists that we could look into maybe helping establish. I don't want to promise anything or overpromise, but it's definitely something that sounds like a great idea. Maybe there could be some training so veterans can be there.
Right. And if I may add, from my experience, I've had at least 8 callers over the past 5 years who attended one of my therapeutic paint and snack. and I agreed to keep it in confidence. And they had indicated that by going through a relaxing or some type of distraction into a peaceful situation, they felt a sense of hope, and they had confided in me that they were contemplating of making, as they phrase it, a final exit. And thank you for paying attention or caring about me or of that nature. And I felt helpless because I didn't have a reference point to give them to call, only to say, I'm glad that I could be of help through art and through the therapeutic of art. And I beg of them to please come back and explore the wonderful things that you have within you, where that exit that you wanted to take is so far removed from what your true calling is. So it would be, for many organizations, it would be so ideal to have that in our pocket to say, in addition, please call, so forth.
Yeah, that's sounds like a great idea. So it's definitely something
Thank you.
to look into for sure. And then I can follow up with you as well. That way we can touch base about it a little bit more if you'd like. So.
Okay, Chef Basil has his hand up, and then there's a question in the chat as well.
I'm going to ask the same question that I had asked the young man earlier. Every 20, and I'm glad that you addressed the suicide part, because every 22 days there's a veteran suicide, but there are also a lot of sexual assault women suicide. And so if you could put your information on the chat, we could have this conversation offline.
Sure, of course.
Because I would like to get more information to share to our veteran women and our veteran men as well.
Yes, of course.
I just text you or something. If you could just put your information on the chat.
Okay, sure. Go ahead and put my email. Right, there you go.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, do you have an office number?
Yeah, let me put that down as well here. Memorized. Give me 1 second.
Okay. And thank you very much for your time and your good work.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm eager
It's
to
my
work.
first time.
Yeah, well, that's exciting.
And then there's a question in the chat. It says, is there a free training program for family members to recognize the signs of impending suicide?
Yeah, so I know the VHA, the suicide prevention coordinators, have a lot of training that they offer. So that is definitely something that I can follow up with one of the suicide prevention coordinators to see what kind of trainings they have. But I know there are definitely some for family members. I think VA Safe training might be available. But if you want to email me, or I can email you, whichever is easiest, and then we can link up and I can get those trainings to you as well. Here's my number.
And Dr. Felicia, you have a question?
I have a question. Well, also a comment. The trainings that you are speaking about and the trainings that you're speaking about, I would like to be privy to that as well. And I've shared this quite a bit because you said knowing the signs to prevent suicide training. So I've shared this quite a bit. My dad did 3 tours of Vietnam, and he was a postal inspector, ROTC teacher, very successful family, wife, kids, and the whole 9 yards. And he committed suicide in 1993 because of all of the PTSD and whatnot. And you would have never, ever known a sign because we had dinner like regular families. We did everything together and went to the commissary, everything. There was not a sign. You would have never. So something that I'm working on right now is whenever you come from the theater, legislation to go through like a debrief, like if you are held hostage in a foreign country, you go to Texas where we have I joined combat stress units medical because of my dad. So you go to Texas and you get this in-depth debrief, including medical, psych, and whatnot. Oftentimes we have our service members, they come from theater and they just go straight back to the unit and they just fall back in. You know, and I know that because my unit pretty much did that. We had a little bit of, little talks, but you just pretty much fall in. So I just kind of wanted to share that. I'd like to see that because, and I'll share more later.
Yeah.
Amy has given me a little space to kind of share a little later about what we're doing in Washington, D.C. with policy. So if you could, I'd love to get that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sorry to hear about your dad. I can't imagine, of course, what that's like, but definitely we can link up for sure and learn a little bit more and see what we can do. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Enter. I'm just going to enter my cell as well, so you all have it, my work cell. Okay. Oh, that was tracked.
Yes, so I know that the SAVE training is meant to be a preventative training. And I think Christina in the chat is trying to figure out how is there a way to get that information out there before, so family members can start seeing the signs far before their service member becomes suicidal or goes into that crisis.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's definitely something. So each week the suicide prevention team has a meeting, so I can definitely join in on that meeting and present that question and see if there's a way to get that training out, like you said, in advance before it becomes a crisis potentially. Because you're right, it definitely needs to happen earlier on. So if there is a crisis, you're not stranded without resources or knowing how to go about helping the person. So I put my email, I'm not sure if my number is showing up in the chat, but I would love to follow up with all these questions. So I can either send like a mass email out or one-on-one, whichever is easiest.
Yeah, if there's we'll be sending out the follow-up email for this meeting next Wednesday. So I'm not sure if that's soon enough, but again, we're always happy to welcome you back to give the community an update, because suicide prevention, it's a big deal in Los Angeles County, which is why we have our board of supervisors so heavily involved with the suicide review team. And we just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to sharing information on suicide prevention and making sure our families, who are typically the first to recognize that there's an issue, to make sure that they're aware of what to even look for.
Yes.
Sorry. Does anyone else have any questions, comments, things that they'd like to hear back on in regards to suicide prevention?
Hi, real quick, Amy, just throw something out there.
Go ahead, Alex.
So my name is Alex Ortega. I'm an adjunct professor at Loyola Marymount University. I also work at Cal State Fullerton. And this last couple of years, Loyola Marymount University has created a program. It's a state certified peer support program, and it's fully funded. We also provide mental health first aid. So if it's last year we graduated, over 100 veterans to be certified in peer support, kind of crisis intervention, first response piece. So if anybody's interested or wants more information, more than welcome to shoot me an email. I could connect you to our administrative support coordinator. We get you set up for class and kind of add those tools to your tool belt so you can kind of be the first responder, triage a lot of these situations. So if you have any questions, you can message me or email me. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Alex. All right. Any other last questions, comments, concerns before I open it up to Dr. Felicia from our Families and Children Working Group?
Quick question, Alex, is that just for LA County residents, or is that something that somebody could participate in over Zoom or online learning nationally? Somebody who's interested in your peer support program.
Yes, sir. Great question. Sorry for not addressing that. Yeah, that's the really cool part about it. So I teach the in-person modality. we've actually expanded from Los Angeles County to Orange County now. We're trying to even look at the next expansion piece. But right now we have a program going all through Zoom. My colleague, Mr. Kevin Benitez, he's the professor of it. They're in week 2 right now. It's Saturday from 10 to 3. And we try to really gear this program for working professionals. Traditionally, the peer support program is a Monday through Friday training, 8 to 5 for 2 weeks. Well, that eliminates a lot of working professionals, a lot of students. So we've kind of geared it towards the working professional, the student base. So yeah, we have an online modality. We have an in-person modality covering Los Angeles County on main campus, Loyola Marymount, and in Orange County, Tustin, California. So I would love to share this resource. I would love to do it. It's game-changing, it's life-changing. For anyone who's ever attended peer support, I hope that you found something out of it. I know I use those skills almost on a daily basis for me, sir. So I would love to connect with you offline and give you more information about it.
Good fire. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, with that, I will go ahead and open it up to Dr. Felicia Weaver. She is one of our co-chairs for the Families and Children Working Group.
I apologize, everybody. I am in my car because I'm traveling from one base to another to Los Alamitos. So I apologize for that, for being in the car. Well, what I really wanted to state at this point about our Families and Children Working Group is, first of all, April is the month of the military child, and we had a really nice event for our children and parents, I think during the pandemic. And one thing that I've learned is that children really impact their parents. And so we're putting together something for that, which I hope that we can all become a part of. We have tables, you can come, you can set up your tables and present your information and things like that, which would be terrific. And that is in April, and you'll be hearing more about that. We've been invited. So let me go back a minute. Every year I go to Washington, D.C. in the month of March because it's a policy day for veterans, March the 16th. So we've been invited to attend Policy Day in DC on March the 16th. I will be sending out the invite if anyone would be interested in coming this year. We speak on Capitol Hill, we go to the congressional offices, we go to the Senate offices, and we actually bring to their table, to their desk, what our concerns are. I mean, it's great for us to be able to express them, in letters or whatnot, but to sit there with them face to face. So I actually had an opportunity to sit down with, he was the chairman at the time, Takano, for veterans, and Congressman Takano. And we shared a lot of things that he really was interested in listening to about childcare, which is a major concern for our military families and veterans families. So if anyone's interested in going this year, it would be terrific. I'm actually leading a delegation to DC this year of our Veterans Collaborative, and I have a few people that are interested in attending. And so, like I said, you're put on the list, and you're assigned one congressional leader, and you're assigned one senator, and you actually go and sit in their office, and you have a conversation with them. The last visit I went, my daughter, who was 13 at the time, actually spoke on Capitol Hill about the necessity for children who transfer because their parents PCS to remain in the STEM program, because she's a STEM student, and oftentimes they get displaced whenever the parent PCS, they lose their placement. And so that was a major concern of hers. And I have the video of her speaking on Capitol Hill addressing that issue. And they stated that she was the youngest person to speak regarding military children at that time. And they really appreciated that. So also we're working on legislation for childcare, because again, that's a big thing that we're going to be talking about when we go to DC, and homelessness among our veterans here. I would love to have anybody from, the chairs from the homeless department to come to DC with me and sit in the congressional offices and talk to them face to face, so we can really express to them the dire needs that we have here in LA County. So again, I don't want to take up more time. Our group will be open. We can talk a little bit more about that. But like I said, anyone who's interested, March the 16th, we'll be in Washington, D.C. for our Veterans Policy Day. It's a whole day we spend there, and you just walk Capitol Hill, and whatnot. So again, we'll talk more about that in our group. And I believe, oh, and then lastly, we started a program for all of our veterans children and military kids to have a program at every school in LA County where they can come together and unite and meet each other and also talk to the counselors there. So the first one was attended by Mayor Garcetti, and this was several years ago in San Pedro, where we have 3 military housing units. So we're continuing that effort. And so we would like to have some people on board for that. And we're going to be having an event there, and you'll hear more about that as well in the upcoming month. We're hoping for March because we'd like the mayor to attend, along with our city council person who has always stated that he would love to be there. And this is just something, we call it a military military connected kids club. And again, the kids go home and tell their parents and take everything you give them to their parents. So that is like a direct connection that I think is really instrumental to reaching out to the kids. So I'll stop there. Again, we'll be talking a little bit more about that in our working group. Thank you so much. And again, Basil Kimbrough is on. I don't know if he introduced himself, but he is the new chair for the Veterans Caucus for California. So I just wanted everybody to know who he was. And, you know, we have his ear. So anything we need to share, he's here to listen.
Okay, Felicia, don't mute just yet. We do have a hand raised. Miss Janae Watts.
Yes, thank you so much for your comments. Are you able to look at the chat as you're driving?
Well, I can talk as I drive.
Well, no, the reason why I was asking is offline, I just share it with you, my contact information. I don't want to take too much time, but I would love to discuss more as far as you going to the Hill.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so that's why.
Yeah, and like I said, we have there are these programs, and we have discounted tickets, all kinds of. I have information for discounts, the hotel, all kinds of stuff. I stayed at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel for $79 a night when I was there, and that's normally like a $400 a night.
Yeah, I'm from Washington, so I know how it's incredible right now.
I know all the discounts.
But that's why I just wanted to make sure if you would be able to pull up the chat, because I did contact. Gave you my contact information if you could call me, if you can pull that up.
I'm not driving right now, so yeah, I can do it. I pulled over.
Dr. Felicia, if you let me know your email, I could type it in the chat for everyone if you're okay with that.
You know what? I'm going to chat. I can do it right now. Thank you. Who's this?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so very much.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to do my military address. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to type in my my military email address. So. Any other questions? I'd love to have you all to come. I really would. It would be great. If you're available.
How many people can come, Felicia?
As many as want to come. There is no limit. We can all, anybody that can get on the plane, we can go. So there's no limit. The more we have there, the greater the force we have. I always say there's power and strength in numbers. So we need to have those numbers there. Again, we go directly into their office. And we speak directly to them. And so we'll be speaking directly to the chairman of Veterans Affairs when we go on the Hill. And, you know, we'll be sitting right there talking with them. And they actually come. We have breakout sessions. We have, it's like a whole day of us and them. I'll just say that. So, and it's March the 16th. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that so you have enough time if anybody wants to go to plan.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you for inviting us to be part of that conversation. I see a lot of faces lighting up like, let's go. Hopefully,
let's go. And you also get to take a tour. You can take a tour because you can go to any of the museums. We don't typically you have to have a congressional letter to go, you know, if you're just going to show up. But we can actually go to any of the museums there. We can get a letter from the collaborative. And also if you have your CAT card, I have my CAT card. So I took about 10 people with me to the museums we went to, you know, did a tour of the day. And you can bring your kids.
Did you put your information in the chat? And thank you. Much appreciated. I definitely would love to do that. I've worked with congresswomen and a couple of senators in the past, like Senator Dean Heller, Congresswoman Titus. I work with Congresswoman Bargon now. I'm a commissioner of Veterans Affairs for the city of Carson. local vet rep for the state.
That's
And
my
so,
comment.
and I'm originally born in DC. My dad was a Marine, Vietnam. We just buried him last year. Both my granddads were Army World War II. So thank you for your service and sacrifice, Hua. But yeah, no, I definitely am very interested myself. There's a couple of things I'd like to bring up, especially regarding primarily supportive services for the allied members that we have all worked with, because many more of us would be dead and injured without them. And as I've been in this ecosystem for the past 6 years or so, I've been able to presume there's about 5,000 or so of these types from Australia, England, and they're citizens and they're here. And so there's some kind of way to be able to identify them through our VA system, not for necessarily for pension, but primarily for healthcare, because many of them just need some ibuprofen. Their knees are jacked up. And, I'm a Desert Storm guy, and being in the allied force with that, I work with some of these guys from different parts of the world. And so it makes me realize that, it's not just us US military, it's a global thing, right? And so, but yeah, that's something that I think is, I think that's important. But at any rate, again, thank you for your service and for your time, and I'll look forward to connecting with you.
Thank you.
Basil, ask Chef Basil.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for, yes, I did speak earlier, and I explained to them that we would like to be involved on the collaborative partnership as well. And thank you for inviting me, and I'm streaming at the same time to all the others. And as we always say, huh!
What?
Thank you all so much. Okay.
Army strong. Is everyone all right?
All day long.
Soldier for life.
Army strong.
Army strong.
Thank you all. Again, I want to just convey how much I truly appreciate everyone for staying on, and I hope to see you all in the different working groups. Again, we have 10, our behavioral health, women veterans, our health and wellness, our legal and reentry, housing and homelessness, our recreational rehabilitation, career advancement, our faith-based, higher education, and our families and children. So the working groups are now open and available for you to join. You just go to the bottom of your screen. If it doesn't show breakout rooms, then there should be the 3 dots for more. Select that, and it should allow you an option to go into the working group. If you're having difficulty, please just put in the chat which working group you'd like us to put into, and Anil and I will help get you to the right spot. Thank you.
Yep, and I know we just got a comment in terms of, can we get a copy of the recording? It will come out in next Wednesday's email that goes out to review kind of everything that we're talking about.
Yes, so this meeting has been recorded, so it will be placed in a YouTube link that'll be accessible from the follow-up email along with the chat. So everything in the chat.
So for the purposes of recording, my name is Jada Parks Chatterjee. I'm a registered nurse and a lactation consultant. And today we're going to talk about cardiovascular health. So it's February, and give me a reason to wear red, even though my heart is pink and green forever. And if you know, you know, right? So this month we uplift heart health, and we want to empower ourselves, our families, and specifically the women to really take a good look at what is going on with our heart. Rocio, I really appreciate what you said about our conversation, and it really does go back to just, the foundation of heart health, and that's really is having space in our hearts for all of the things that we don't have control over, right? Which is a lot. And then depending on who you're speaking with, a lot of people have no control at all. And so I really find it really important to try my best, and it's a practice. I'm not without flaws by it at all. But it is a practice to be able to think with a open heart and with empathy and compassion to really be able to not have stress and worry and anxiety on myself, because when we become angry, then our blood pressure increases and our heart pumps more blood. And so then our heart rate increases and our respiratory rate increases. And all of those things have an impact on our organs and therefore have an impact on our body. And so it is with, a lot of respect to the human body and to God's and God's grace for my human body that I try to practice and teach my child. I have a 9-year-old, and the importance of really kind of seeing things outside the box, because heart disease is the #1 killer, right? And it is the #1 killer among women. And Black women are at the top of that list. And so when I learned that probably maybe 20 years ago, it really did strike me, because my grandmother had heart disease that was diagnosed later in life, right? She was born in the early 1900s. My mother then had heart disease that was late in life onset, and she was born in the late 1930s. And so I knew that I had to figure out, how am I going to break this cycle of heart disease? And we have tons of information and literature and research that is done on heart disease and just, how it matters, and we could talk about all the basics, right? The basics are, exercise every day, even if it means parking, not blowing your horn at the person who took your parking spot next to the handicap parking spot, but just saying you know what, I'm going to get some extra steps in, right? And taking those extra steps because it is adding value to your heart. Taking our blood pressures on a somewhat regular basis, kind of like a check-in for yourself without even having to go to the doctor's office, but having your own well check-in. That's knowing what your baseline blood pressure is, knowing what your baseline heart rate is, knowing if I walk up these 2 flights of stairs and I do it every day, on day 1, how do I feel? And then on day 10, do I feel more ease, right? Those are doing body check-ins. And the reason for knowing resting heart rate, which is somewhere between 60 and 80 beats per minute, you can check your heart by I use my 2 fingers, my index, my pointer finger, and my middle finger, and I can place it on underneath my throat or chin and see if I feel around. And so if you're sitting and you have a moment to do that, you can check here. This is called the carotid artery. Or I can take it here on my wrist, right? You can check also in here, I'm going to stand. You can also check it here in the inside of your elbow. You can feel the pulse. The back of your legs, behind your knee. You can feel the pulse. Okay. And those are really good things to be aware of, right? Resting blood pressure. Okay. I remember as a little girl, I used to love to go to the K&B. I'm from Louisiana, and we had K&B stores. It's kind of like a purple version of CVS. And one of the reasons I would love to go to the K&B is because I could check my blood pressure. So I've been fascinated with heart for a very long time. Now that I think about it, I was a very young girl. I was probably 5 or 6. And my dad would let me check my blood pressure. And then I became really fascinated with sitting in quiet places and listening to what I could hear in my, if I would close my ears, if you close your ears, you can actually hear your heart. So let's everybody take a moment and do that. Close your ears.
Jada, I'm scared. I cannot hear my heart. Am I dead?
Well, you're breathing, so you're not dead. And so that is the practice, right? Because becoming in a moment of silence, that means like really going deep internal and listening for your heart. And then of course I graduated to having play stethoscopes. So, you know, you can get those as well and be able to listen to your heart. And then, you know, listening to the hearts of your loved ones. I can tell when my partner has not slept very well because I can hear his heart and I can hear it beating faster. If I can, you know, if the day was a really busy day and maybe he hasn't slept very well the nights previously, I can hear it beating faster. And I can tell on the days that he's well rested because I can hear it beating slower. Now, that might not be pillow talk, right? That's, you know, very hot, but it is an opportunity to engage in conversation about our bodies because at the very basic level, right? Like as in partnership, we are the people that get asked those questions in the emergency room. In the event that we need to go to the emergency room, like, has this ever happened before? What's your regular heart rate? Is this normal for you, right? I mean, I work in postpartum and I support families often and I take blood pressures. And I'll sometimes say like, is this your regular heart rate? Or is this your normal blood pressure? And I can tell you probably 8 out of 10 of those lovelies have no idea what their normal resting blood pressure or heart rate is. And that is concerning because we are talking a lot about our body, our choice, right? And so with our body, our choice, it is our responsibility to know what those basics are.
So Jada, may I just interrupt for just one moment? So she just put something out very, very concerning, right? That not everyone knows what is the normal, what is their normal, right? What is their regular sitting heart rate? I'm just wondering, how many of you know what your resting heart rate is or what your active heart rate should be? Does anybody know what that is or what that should be? I don't.
Yeah.
Christine does. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if Patricia Jackson Kelly knew because you're a nurse. I don't know. And so that plays into, I know what you're going to be discussing in a little bit is that we have a certain responsibility to ourselves to understand these things, right, Jada? I mean, I'm assuming that's where you're going. That's what you just mentioned.
So a resting heart rate is 60 beats to 80 beats per minute. So you can turn on your phone, onto the timer, press start, make sure you get a good feel and feel your heart rate. And I think a minute, right, there's other ways. If you're a nurse, there are other ways for you to get that. But I think it's really nice to hear or to feel for 1 full minute. It's a minute of you being mindful about what's going on in your body. What's a regular blood pressure, right? Regular blood pressure is 120/80. That's 120. There's a slash. So the top number is systolic and the bottom number is diastolic. 120/80 is normal, okay? If your if your blood pressure is more elevated, if it's higher than 140/90, then that's a good reason to chit chat and have a conversation with your provider and say, hey, you know, I noticed that I sat for 10 to 15 minutes and did nothing. And then I took my blood pressure and my heart rate was 90 and my blood pressure was 145/98. And I thought to myself, that seems a little elevated. So then we will pause and wait 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes if you have the time, and then take it again. And if it's still elevated, then now you have created data about yourself that you've collected on yourself that now you can be a partner in your care and collaborate with your provider in order to understand why and understand what to do next and to understand how are you going to move forward, right? So another thing that you can do is check the color of your urine, all right? So urine is a good indicator of how your body is filtrating filtrating and moving out waste. Okay. It's also a pretty good indicator of how your how your kidneys are functioning and how that is taken into consideration with your blood pressure and volume. And that's, once again, that's kind of a really deep conversation on physiology. However, we're looking for yellow, very light, pale yellow color. If you take vitamins in the morning, you'll notice that after you ingest your vitamins, probably like an hour or 2 hours after you ingest your vitamins, your urine may be very bright yellow. And that's okay, because that's something that you're tracking. So then you'll say, okay, let me look at my urine after lunch. How does it look? Did it get lighter? Is it more pale? Is it leaning towards more clear? When you're drinking water, then your urine is lighter in color. And that's what we're going for, right? We are looking to show that we are hydrated. So our urine tells us that we're hydrated, and it also is a really good communicator on what else is going on in the body. Like, are we getting enough fruits and vegetables? Are we drinking too much coffee and not enough electrolytes? Okay. So the recommendation is for water intake, about half your body weight in ounces of water a day. So think about that. Half my body weight in ounces of water a day. Now, water can be tea, right? We just want to make sure that we're not overdoing it with the caffeine. Water intake can be coffee as well. Water intake can be electrolytes. I'm a big fan of electrolytes, especially for our bodies when we're talking about heart health, in order to be able to support our endocrine system. And you just want to make sure that you're looking at your labels and trying to get a electrolyte drink that is low in sugar. That's really important. Okay. Reasons for you to reach out to your provider is if your urine is a dark tea color consistently. And it's just like, okay, I had beets yesterday and now there's a little bit of red tinge in my urine. Let me see what happens after today when I eat my bowl of broccoli. Like, is that still going on? And now we're on day 2. And if I still see red in my urine, that's a reason for you to reach out. Reach out when you're in doubt. Okay. Another concern would be if there is actual bright red blood in your urine. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Are there any questions? All right. So let's talk about our face. Okay. I have a client that I do some telemedicine consults for new parents. And I was looking at her and I noticed, like, her fingers, you know, kind of came up, and I noticed that her face was a little full, but I mean, you know, she's postpartum. So that was not the concern. But when her fingers came up, I was like, ooh, let me see your hands again. And when she raised her hands up, I said, oh, wow, okay, that looks pretty swollen. Like, how do your legs look? Okay. And she is a nurse as well. And she was like, you know what? They just all of a sudden became swollen. And I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting. Next thing, why don't you sit for 15 minutes, call me back after you've taken your blood pressure. And her blood pressure was elevated. It was like 165 over 100. I was like, okay. So she texted me back. She didn't call. She says, I said, okay, let's get you to the nearest emergency room. Let's find care for your kids and let's get to the nearest emergency room, but take a deep breath and try your best not to panic. Okay. Because we have to look at our bodies and we have to look at our friends as well. Right. Now, it's not always easy to give feedback like that. I have adopted a scientific way in order to communicate, and it is giving either 3 really nice things to 1 thing that is an opportunity, or 5 to 1, right? So when I see people, I'll say things like, oh my God, your hair looks amazing. Where'd you get those earrings from? Dang, girl, you working out? I noticed that you seem a little bloated. How you been feeling? And when that happens, it unravels everything that's going on, right? And so I want to empower us to engage with one another in a way that is based in evidence in order to communicate effectively with compassion and like just an honest interest in how a person is doing, because it could save their lives, right? They may have noticed that they were bloated, but the fact that now you've noticed that they're bloated, they may start sharing things like, you know what? I feel like I'm bloated every morning after I have my milk and cereal. Like, oh, well, maybe we want to talk about the kind of milk you're drinking. Maybe it may be increasing your inflammatory. I don't know. That's a good question for your provider, right? And so we don't have to be the answers to their questions. And I definitely don't recommend that Google is the answer to their questions, but I do recommend that those questions be directed to a healthcare provider. That could be their neighborhood friendly nurse, because if someone asks me those questions, I will do my due diligence to make an assessment, make sure that I keep them calm, and then direct them to the nearest emergency room, right? Because right now, especially in this post-pandemic environment, we have a lot of post-COVID, and we have a lot of symptoms that are not showing up in the same ways that they once were 5 years ago. I might not be so concerned about things. Whereas now I've been able to make links with, there's been a history of this respiratory virus that has pretty much attacked our cardiovascular system. We want to take these things more seriously. If you go for a walk and following your legs are aching, that's probably normal, especially if you haven't been for a walk in a while. But if you're just sitting around and all of a sudden you start getting pains in your legs and they're warm to touch or they're swollen randomly, that's a reason for you to reach out, right? And I know that our healthcare system right now is at capacity, right? Like we are struggling. There's no nice way to put it, okay? When I go to work, I don't know where I'm gonna be, okay? Yesterday I was in the NICU, so I got to hold babies all day. And I mean, that is just a gift in itself, because their parents are not able to be there, are not present for other reasons. And so to be able to have that experience, it's a real grounding exercise for me to just be so grateful and to be of recognition of how precious life is, okay? So face, your hands, and your feet. And if there's any reason for you to be encouraged to either massage your own feet, may I empower you to massage your own feet and your calves, okay, right? So I practice an exercise of making sure that I always make time to place oil on my body after getting out of a bath or a shower. And the reason for that is not so I'm not ashy. I mean, that is one reason, but that's pure vanity, right? But the real reason for that is because I realized that when I was rushing, I wasn't touching myself. And so then I would have these like bruises where I was moving around too quick and bumping into things and not recognizing. And then I was not familiar, right? And so in order to be familiar, you have to do the work, right? So we want to lean down slowly. It's also a great stretch. Lean down slowly, right? Arms, look at yourself. If you can press in your arm and it indents, you're probably, filled with fluid. And that's a reason for you to reach out to your provider. When you slowly make your way down, you may only get past your pelvic floor, and that's okay. Because if you hang out there, so right, like you lean down just a little bit and you can put lotion on your hips and butt and low back, it allows for you to have a stretch. And then you're like, oh, maybe I should do this more often. And if you can take your time, maybe not the first time, but maybe it's the second time, lowering down and putting some lotion on your legs. And then you can say to yourself like, oh, wow, I just felt my neck release. In my previous career, I was a massage therapist. I managed fitness centers and day spas because my background is kinesiology. And I learned through touch that I was able to, there is a clear connection to hamstrings, calf muscles, your back, and your neck. And I noticed that on all of the female population that I was practicing on, they had these really tight calf muscles. And I was like, huh, well, that's interesting. So I focused my practice backwards. I would always start my clients flip face down and work on their calves and butt and back, and then flip them over. And I mean, my business was like, it was thriving. And part of that is because we were a lot of high heels, our wedges, and we are probably waiting for somebody else to massage our legs and feet. But let me tell you, no, it starts with you, right? Self-care starts with you. So hands, face, and feet. Normal blood pressure, 120/80. Reasons for you to reach out to your provider and chit chat, 140/90. Resting heart rate, normal resting heart rate, 60 beats per minute to 80 beats per minute. Anything above that, you want to have a conversation with your provider so you can say, hey, is this, why is this occurring? What can I do about it? How can I live with more ease?
So Jada, thank you so much for that. And what I'm hearing is we need to give ourselves permission to advocate for ourselves. But in order to advocate for ourselves, we need to understand ourselves. We need to understand our bodies. We need to understand the basics of what our face should look like, what our skin should look like, what our blood pressure should be, right? So all of these things play into this whole idea of, I know I'm like that, where I'm just like, well, I'm just going to wait for the doctor to tell me. To the point where if somebody asks me, what prescriptions are you taking? What medication are you on? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I have an allergy medicine and I've got these stomach issues, blah, blah, blah. But that's not enough, right? So now, thanks to Walgreens, I'm able to log into my Walgreens and say, here are the medications because I don't do VA. I don't go to the VA for my medical care. I go to Walgreens. So we do have Dr. Batuman on this call. Sorry, for a second, I blanked out for a second. So we also do want to give her an opportunity. But before that, I really just want to ask you, Jada, in our community, in our culture, just even as women, what are the takeaways? You gave us some really great tips on how to identify when something might be a little bit off, when to speak up. If you could just speak to your sisters, you could just speak to fellow women and just say to them, here are the things that you need to understand in order to receive the best medical care. And what is it that you would like us to be aware of? What is it that we should be able to verbalize when we see a doctor? What are the things that we should be aware of ourselves when, as far as our self-care, not as massages, but as life or death, right? As the ability to be able to live a long-term life.
Well, I think the first thing is, obviously the key is prevention, right? So eating smart, okay? Lots of fruits and vegetables. If you for any reason cannot ingest your fruits and vegetables, then let's try to find a cleaner way in order for you to get those fruits and vegetables. I have been on a product called Juice Plus that gives you 17 servings of raw fruits and vegetables. There's tons of literature and research. I don't put anything in my body that hasn't been backed by evidence-based and digest into my bloodstream, right? I eat to live, okay? I mean, I eat good food. I'm from Louisiana, for heaven's sakes. I can outcook you, okay? I've already said it. I can outcook you. But I also know how to identify clean ingredients in order to still make sure that I'm eating to live and also eating food that tastes good, right? So you don't have to, toss out food that is all high in fat. You just want to do it in real moderation. And what that looks like is hey, if there's 4 holidays a year where you know that you're going to eat whatever it is that you want to eat, then do it, and do it with joy, because food is a way that we express joy and love. Drinking water and electrolytes, stretching every day. You learn a lot about your body when you stretch. walking outside, finding areas that are safe and green. There's tons of literature that support when we are outside, sunlight hitting us. I mean, we live in Southern California, so I went for a walk this morning and I'm in Riverside County, looked around and I'm surrounded by green hills and, you know, snow-capped mountains, right? There's eagles flying over and hummingbirds buzzing around. And so it's like being outside and being in nature allows us to lower cortisol levels. And cortisol levels, when we're talking about, you know, blood work, when you go for your blood work, cortisol levels are linked to elevated risk for cardiovascular disease. So that's like the stress hormone. Meditate, right? Your meditation can look like prayer, singing, dancing, right? And sitting in silence, right? And then it's really important to know when to seek support. That is the main thing that I see that we have an opportunity on, and it's twofold, okay? It's seeking support and then also in supporting and also knowing when to seek support, because we see a lot of people in the hospitals that don't always need to be there. And then we see people come to the hospital who needed to have been there like a week prior, okay? So if you have a headache that is not going away with Tylenol, and Tylenol works really well. Like I don't work for Tylenol, they don't pay me, but it works really well, okay? Like after 30 minutes, your headache should have subsided tremendously or gone away. And if it's still lingering, right? If it's 4 hours later and you still got a headache and you've eaten, you've had 2 8-ounce cups of water and you've had your Tylenol or your ibuprofen and you still have a headache, that's a reason for you to start thinking about your cardiovascular system. Maybe I should check my blood pressure. Let me check my blood pressure and see what my blood pressure is, okay? That's a big deal. That is taking the responsibility for your health so that you can be a partner in your care, because we're going into a very exhausted healthcare system.
Wow.
Right? Expecting all the answers, and we're not doing all the work. And we really want to be partners in our care. Cardiovascular concerns, if you have chest pains, women's cardiovascular dis-ease shows up a little differently. So pains in your back, your stomach, right? You think it's indigestion, but you've taken Tums and 30 minutes later, you're still having indigestion. Start thinking about your cardiovascular system, okay? Your stomach is your life force, right? Like it's highly vascular. Most of your organs are hanging out there. And it's a way that your body is screaming to you with headaches, chest pains, indigestion. If there's pain in your legs, like we talked about earlier, those are reasons for you to reach back to your provider. Knowing the signs of a stroke, the face drop, the arm weakness, slurred speech, that's when it's time for us to reach out for more support. And so my empowerment is for us to not only know these things about ourselves, but to practice recognizing and being aware about ourselves so that we can be able to be contributors to our communities, right? I mean, if we look in where our community persons are being cared for, those systems are exhausted, all right? We have to partner with the care providers that are there every day, day in and out. And the best lessons that I received was when I was working with Children's Hospital Los Angeles and talking with parents and understanding from the perspective of a parent what it feels like to have their children receive care and what partnership and collaboration looks like when you're caring for the most vulnerable population, which is children. And that is to hear what the people at the bedside have to say, but they have to know in order to say. And it is from parents that are caring for their children where we lower our risk for mistakes occurring at the bedside. Oh, hey, my baby already had that medication. Oh, really? Let me ask somebody. Oh, thank you so much, right? That is partnership, right? Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity to elevate how care is, how we interact with our healthcare system and model, because what we're doing, it's not working, right? We got to know about what is going on with you so you can share that with me when I ask a basic question like, is 96 over 50 your norm? If you tell me you don't know, I'm probably going to start calling a lot of people. And then all of a sudden you're going to get medications that you may not want. But it's because we don't know. We don't know. We're learning through diagnostic testing. And you don't know because you haven't had a blood pressure in a very long time. So cardiovascular health, and I'll close with this. Cardiovascular health is our net worth, right? If your heart is functioning and it is functioning well at its most optimal, then your contributions to your family, to your community, and to the world at large, it makes a big difference. So eat to live. Your health is your wealth. Thank you for your time.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Jada. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was really great. I didn't even know you were gonna go talking about urine is not sexy. So, but I understand the implications, right? I understand my urine glows in the dark when I take vitamins. I understand that. I'm proud of myself when it's really clear because I'm like, oh, I've been drinking enough water, right? I know when I've had asparagus. And so it's just really these indicators, if we pay attention how amazing our bodies are, our bodies talk to us. And we just, I guess what I'm walking away with is that we just need to learn how to listen, and we need to advocate. Like if it was for our child or a person, like we need to advocate and partner with our healthcare providers. So thank you so much for that. We have Dr. Batuman here. She is the director for the Women's Health Services with the VA. I'm sorry if I'm not getting that 100% correct.
Correct.
And we would like, we've invited her here because a lot of us who are veterans or who work with veterans are not always 100% sold on attending the VA. We don't really understand like really the great services that the VA provides. And so I really wanted to hear from Dr. Batuman. What are some of the services that are available? What are some of the newer services, and how we as veterans can continue to show up and make sure that the services that we do want, that we do need, are provided by the VA. So Dr. Batuman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate the time. And also I would like to thank you, every single veteran who's joining today, for their services. Actually, I'm in Ventura Clinic. This is one of our new clinics that we, I usually come every Wednesday to serve our female veterans. And I'm proud to have 2 nurse practitioners that I'm training. And actually, I appreciate this time because February is Women's Heart Health Month. And I'm doing an event on the 15th in Ventura. If anyone is from this area, they can join us. But usually I lecture on women's heart health. I think Jada, prior, the person who was talking about heart health, I really appreciate her information that she was spreading. But in general, I want to give you overview of our women's health program. And also I would like to add a few sentences about heart health at the end of my presentation. GLA Women's Health Program as a comprehensive women's health program was approved in 1994 by Congress. And comprehensive women's health means it's women's health primary care, gynecology, women's mental health, pharmacy, nutrition, social worker. We all work under one roof, and we provide care as I call one-stop shop. When you walk into Women's Health Clinic at West LA or Sepulveda, we have 2 comprehensive centers. You can get care for everything. You can see your primary care provider, you can see your gynecologist, You can schedule your appointment same day, and you can talk to your social worker. You can speak to the pharmacist, and they can educate you about preventive health, about preconception health. If you're planning to get pregnant, they can talk about how to care for yourself and what to do, what not to do in order to get pregnant. And also we have a robust mental health program, and we have medical residents that we train future doctors in our program. In our program, most of our providers, especially the attending providers, are faculty at UCLA. We are partnered with UCLA Medical Center. I'm a faculty at UCLA, and we teach our residents. When you teach, usually you make sure everything is done right. We practice evidence-based medicine. And I think since now we are 22 years old, our comprehensive women's health program at GLA is 22 years old. And really our program has provided care for 10,000 women veterans. And right now we have 10,000 women veterans in our under our care. And we make sure every clinic has at least 2 designated women's health provider. What designated women's health provider means that they are well trained, how to care for our female veterans, how to be sensitive about sexual trauma, how to be sensitive about PTSD. And also they are very knowledgeable about trauma-informed care, because we have a few of our veterans who had military sexual trauma, or we have veterans who have been traumatized by sexual trauma during their childhood. I think our mental health providers are very, very well educated, and I will strongly recommend our veterans to use our VA facility, because you have really a well-trained and also very experienced mental health and primary care providers. In our National Women's Health Office, we work very closely. I'm in task force to develop guidelines, policies, and how to care for our veterans. That's why we make sure that they're all on board. Every single provider is trained. We call it mini residency. For example, every new provider, before even they start, I send them to those mini residencies to be trained. If training doesn't mean how to do pap smear, of course you have to be perfect on that, but you have to know how to care for a veteran, how to be sensitive, how to respect their dignity and also privacy. Those are very important things. And also, I think women in general, not just at the VA, we have been not really cared appropriately. For example, heart disease, all the researchers worked on men. And when you hear about sign of heart attack, you always know it's the chest pain radiating to your left arm, crushing chest pain, and the patient has absolutely not a woman. I think the prior speaker spoke about that. I think it's very important for us as a woman to be educated about our body. We have to know our body. We have to know what heart disease in women is, and how, what are the risk factors, and what we should ask our doctor. I think educated patient is a healthy patient. If you know about your body, if you know what to ask, if you make few notes before you go and talk to your doctor, I think it makes your health better and makes you educated patient. Actually, you consume that time in a productive way. It's not like sitting, oh, I forgot. I don't know which, I take the white pill for my thyroid. I don't know how many milligrams, but I didn't take it for last 2 months because I thought my thyroid is okay. This is not the right thing. You have to be in charge. It's your body. And also, I think as a woman, as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, we always put ourselves in the bottom. You take care of everybody, but you never take care of yourself. You come first. In order to have a healthy family, you have to be healthy. You have to be well educated. In order to be a good mother, you have to be, you have to know what to do and not to do. I think I see Pat Jackson is here. I think we go back, and she was one of our I think first woman health program manager. But at this time we have opening for program manager, but I'm covering everything. But I think it's very important to know what VA provides. We have full services for primary care, for gynecology, for mental health. These are the most important part. And we have full-time social workers at West LA and also in Sepulveda, but we have social workers everywhere to help our women veterans. I have 2 full-time pharmacists. They are very well educated about women and medications that has side effects more in women than men. And also we have a nutritionist. 2 large clinics, they have full-time nutritionists. And every event, every lecture, everything I do, I always tell them, please make sure you use these facilities. Make sure you use these resources we have. For example, I'm here today to take care of our women veterans in Ventura. And I see that I saw a woman before I came to this meeting. She was seen in 2015 in Oxnard. And she didn't see any doctor, and she had a few abnormal labs, never took care of it. And imagine it has been 7, 8 years. She hasn't seen anyone. Really, we are here to really put everything together for our female veterans. So and we are reaching out to help our female veterans, and we want them to use our resources.
So Dr. Batuman, I am gonna stop you there because I am surrounded by amazing veterans who are, I'd say 4 out of 5 of us, if I'm looking at one group, 4 out of 5 of us happily get their health care services at the VA. And then there's the one that doesn't. And I'm gonna say I am that one that does not. My first experience with a VA doctor, I was choking on water because he didn't, I wasn't getting, I was a dentist and I was getting, I wasn't being properly, I wasn't getting the water drained out. And I started choking and he yelled at me to stop it while I was choking on the floor.
Oh my goodness.
So that was my first experience. My last experience was, okay, good. None of the men are here. So my last experience was, I had a prod inside of me because they were looking at my ovaries. And the man was very insensitive, I think, turning around and turning it around. And it was so painful. There was a woman there, but she was busy looking on her phone. She almost left the office. She almost left it to go get another person because they couldn't find my ovaries, which made me feel so unsafe. And when I was asked to undress, the person who was there walked over to the other side of the room, and I said, "Can you please step outside?" Because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable.
Where was that? It's in West LA?
That was at West LA.
Okay, and when was that? How many years?
That was 1.5 years ago, and I think if you recall, I was on a panel.
Oh yeah, I remember now. You know,
and
actually, I
nothing,
spoke to radiology chief. Yeah, I remember that.
And nothing was followed up, and so I haven't.
Oh, they didn't call you?
I have not felt safe returning to the VA. So as the program coordinator and as an advocate for women, women's services, veterans in general, I have a hard time encouraging another veteran to go and seek the services for women veterans at the VA when I don't feel safe, when I don't feel comfortable. And I have a very good friend who works at the VA, and she has encouraged me repeatedly to go, and there's different ways to report these things, but I still have a hard time. And as good as I am at advocating for everyone else, when I feel like I haven't been listened to, it makes it more difficult to advocate for myself.
You know, when we spoke last time, I brought this, because this happened in radiology, and I brought up this issue to our chief of radiology. Because you had transvaginal ultrasound, I believe. And when I spoke to him, and he said he called the supervisor for technicians, and they were going to have a session to educate those technicians. And he, when I reached out back to him, and he said that person who was doing the procedure is no longer works there. And they have been, they have a policy now regarding, privacy, and also how to be sensitive for towards our not just male veterans also. And this is how I took it, and I thought, and I gave the information, and it's their part to reach out to you to make sure it's done. But we can just talk offline, and I'm going to revisit this. And I really truly apologize for your experience, but I think we have a lot of resources. I know your experience really is a learning, a teaching moment for all of us. And I'm so sorry that you've been through this. And, I don't have control over their department, but I think my job is to make sure anything that's not working, to make sure that's fixed. And I'm going to revisit, and I'll get back to you. But regardless, I think this incident is such a horrible and negative experience, but we should fix that with all resources that we have, and all resources that we get in the Congress approves. They are very kind towards female veterans. They've been very generous towards, but I think we should fix it, and we should get rid of people who behave this way. We should be advocating as a woman, and you as a woman who's in a role that can advocate for other veterans. I think we should do that. And we should make sure every corner of our facility is safe for not just women veterans, for male veterans too. And I think you shouldn't be exposed to such a, experience that you had. And I'm really sorry about that. But I thought they reached out to you. But as far as I know, that issue has been discussed, and the person who was involved, they said that he no longer works. But I have to check on that again. But that was the answer I got from them.
Thank you so much. Dr.
Thank you.
Newman.
Sure.
Hey, everyone. We only have 4 minutes left. Do we have any questions for
Yes.
Dr. Batuman or Jada? Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to introduce myself. That was pretty much it. Just to say hi to everybody. I came into a heavy topic, so I apologize. But my name is Christopher Cooley. I'm a development counselor for Grand Canyon University. I know Rocio, and so I just wanted to bring that. I promote higher education for our online programs, bachelor's, master's, doctorate degrees. And, our university is inclusive to everybody. So I wanted to make sure I try to tackle every group that I could come into and give my 2 cents to.
Thank you, Chris. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. But right now we've got a few more minutes. We are discussing women's health. So we're going to go back to that. Thank you.
Okay.
So Dr. Batuman, what else would you like us to be able to advocate on behalf of to other women veterans? Or what? 3 minutes?
No, we have 3 minutes, and then it's going to boot us off. So
Okay.
that's why I was
Yeah,
trying to let
I
everyone
think
know.
you have, you have my contacts, and you have probably other VA employees who are here. But, we should get together and make sure every single facility that our women veterans use, it's safe. And we have to make sure people who are not doing their job as required, they shouldn't work in this facility. And your experience should be a teaching moment for every VA employee, how to behave and how to take care of any veteran. It could be female or male. Of course, woman is more sensitive, but absolutely, I'm going to revisit this, and I'm going to get back to you.
And the heart health event flyer for Ventura, I did.
Yeah,
post it
I
in
have
the
a
chat.
heart health flyer for Ventura, and I think, are you?
I put it in, I put it in the chat already for everyone
Yeah.
to look at and share.
We are going to have lectures from nutrition. Myself, I'm going to lecture, and also we are going to have other providers. So we are going to have our maternity care coordinator and other coordinators to give information about our services in Ventura. And it will be a nice event for us to talk about our health as a woman, and which is heart disease is #1 killer of women in the United States. That is something that everyone should know. And from 100 women, if you have 100 women who has a heart attack, 40 dies at home. 40 dies in the emergency room, and 40 survives, but they have a lot of mortality. Why? Because we don't understand heart disease in women. I wish I could have a time and do a lecture about that, but it's very important. It's basic. #1 killer of women in this country is heart disease.
My understanding, I'm sorry to cut you off. I know that I've done a little bit of research. I'm hoping I don't run out of time.
Yeah.
But what my understanding is that the symptoms come up different for women than they do for men. Women
Absolutely.
are 3 to 5 times more likely to be misdiagnosed by a doctor
Exactly.
than a man is. We have a 5-year period before women are actually, are actually correctly diagnosed. When they're misdiagnosed, men, it only takes 2 to 3 years to be properly diagnosed after being misdiagnosed. And women are more likely to have immunodeficiency diseases as opposed to men, and therefore they're more misdiagnosed.
Exactly.
So yeah, so a lot of these things, and then women just suck it up. We just suck it up.
We don't go to get help. Like you have indigestion, you think you have indigestion all day, you cook, you take care of your kids, you go take care of your parents, and then suddenly you're gone and nobody knows. They say, oh, she had a heart attack. But the thing is, I think that's what we have to know our body. We have to be educated. We have to know how to take care of ourselves. That's all. And it's easy. I think educated patient, educated woman, it will survive longer. And that's it. You have to know what's going on. And it's important to go get help. It's okay if you're wrong, but get help.
But the other problem also, doctor, is that as women, a lot of times we are not listened to.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we express what's going on with our bodies and the problems that we have, and they are not validated. And
that's why I think as a woman, we should stand out and make everyone hear our voice. Yeah, that's why I think we have to stand up for ourselves. That's why I'm saying, make sure you document. When you walk in, you have a list to talk to your doctor. You have a list and ask questions. If you don't get answers, reach out to different areas.
I'm surprised we haven't been kicked off yet. So that's great news.
It is great news. It is really, really great news. So I had a group called the Silver Veteran for veterans over the age of 50. And I think it was so frustrating to read consistently how women's health issues, it's bad enough when we're younger, but then as we get older, they're even further ignored. And part of that has to do with self advocacy.
Exactly.
Right. And as Jada spoke about earlier,
yeah,
you don't know your body, then how do you really understand when there's something seriously wrong? And so I feel like that's the one thing that we really should be taking away from this, is that we really need to understand our bodies, and nobody's going to advocate for ourselves better than we're going to advocate for ourselves. And having had a sister who had she was typical case study material. She had her immune disease misdiagnosed 3 times over a 5-year period. She even went to another state because she's in Florida. She went to another state to have it looked at. And she still was not, and she still had people doubting her. They were telling her that it was psychosomatic, and it wasn't. It was actually stress induced. So I am going to go ahead and stop, even though we haven't been kicked out. We are going to go ahead and just wrap it up. I want to thank so much Dr. Batuman, super nurse Jada Parks Chatterjee, for being here. I am so thankful for both of you for caring enough about our veterans to be here and just giving us something to really take away. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry I joined late because I couldn't connect. I'm new here and the computer was, but Actually,
You were here.
Krishna have helped me, and that's how I got in. But
Yay,
I think
thank
for
you.
also the other part is the researchers always worked on men. We always had research results that you see for heart disease is done in men. Newly, for past 10, 15 years, they're working on women. Even the cholesterol medications, the woman doesn't tolerate.
Right.
As well as man does.
Right.
And I think Krishna wrote that even with COVID, like women had different reactions, and more women died than men. I think woman's body is different, as you were mentioning about autoimmune disease. There are very rare autoimmune diseases that it's hard to diagnose. I had a patient, she came 3 times until we find out what was wrong with her. Always, you know, you look for obvious, usually you think it's medication side effect, you think it's stress, it's depression, then you go deeper. It takes a couple months to diagnose. Why? Because all researches are done in men and all the medications are developed for men. And that's, I have patients who don't tolerate cholesterol medication, they're female, because our bodies are different. And we react different as a woman.
No, and I think the biggest disgrace, one of the most disgraceful moments in westernized medicine for me as a woman was when we had, I think it was one of the Ivy League schools. I don't know if it was Princeton, Yale, Harvard. The students were walking with, they were being taught, right? It was a teaching school and they were walking, and the doctor looks at a woman's cadaver. A woman donated her body for the sake of science. And this instructor, the head instructor, cuts off a breast. You don't need this. Cuts off the other breast. You don't need this. It was horrific to view. It was ignorant because there are so many things that the breast are indicators. It's so much at the part of the breast. It's not made for the sexualizing of men. It is made to feed and nurture our children. And it has so many sensitivities. It's got so many, it gives off its own smell. A baby can actually crawl up to the breast because they can smell. You know what I mean? There's all these things. And here you had this doctor, this head of the medical department, of the medical teaching department, disregard a woman's body. So it was disrespectful for her as a person, you know, who donated her body. But then what does this insinuate? What does this tell other students, men and women, you know? So that was probably that, and the fact that we have more, our infant mortality rate and our mother mortality rate is so much higher than non-westernized countries. I think that's like disgusting. So that's my 2 bits, but
Well, the bottom line is we have to know our body, we have to speak up, we have to take care of ourselves and be an advocate for our health.
Absolutely.
And be educated patient. That's
yes.
And one of the things we want to do as a priority in this group is create the awareness that there are avenues as a woman veteran who has not a pleasant experience at the VA, how to report those incidents to give the VA the opportunity to, one, acknowledge the error, correct the process, and apologize. So that's one of our initiatives as a group, is to build awareness of the avenues that you can report your experience and be heard.
And the other thing, to give women credit, a lot of times female veterans are outgoing, they are determined, they are very motivated. So the ones that are speaking up, a lot of them are speaking up, but it takes the other side. It takes someone to listen. A lot of times we're penalized. When I was in the military, I did speak up. I did, you know, speak out against some of the sexual abuse that was going on. And I was penalized, and my male counterpart that I reported, nothing was done. They instead transferred me to a different department. So it's not that women are not advocating for themselves, it's that we need to be heard and validated.
You know, that's really deep, and thank you for sharing that. When I hear the question about, you know, processes to report things, there are a few very clear streamlined processes, right? And when we're talking about the hospital, any institution, there is a quality, patient safety, and risk management department that reviews anything that is related to quality outcomes or any risk concerns. And so, when I support parents and they have a concern, I will always tell them, you can follow back up through your member services or wherever you made your appointment. You can file a complaint there, and then you can write a letter. Letter writing is it's pen to paper. It's a cathartic experience, and you can find a template. And maybe that's something that would be really beneficial, is to create a template that can be utilized by your members in order to be able to share, the basic information. So there's buzzwords that gets the attention of the quality, patient safety, and risk management departments. And then, sending those letters to whomever your congressmen or women are, or your state politicians and officials, because this is a collaboration, right? Care that is done specifically in the state of California. We are leading, as far as care outcomes on many, many areas, right? And we can just look at maternal mortality rate, for example, in the state of California. I think it's like, anywhere from the rate, I think the 2016 data was like for every 6 or 7%, whereas in my state, Louisiana, it's 11 to 12 times more deaths, right? So in our state, someone is listening. And so, but we just have to send them to the right channels. So quality, patient safety, risk management, it could be titled, Veterans Hospital, Quality, Patient Safety, Risk Management Department, and send off your letter, and also send that copy off to whatever the department is that you were receiving care from. So if that was the cardiovascular department, please, write underneath, cardiovascular chief. And then if you saw a nurse, then send the same letter and put, cardiovascular nursing services, and really put pen to paper, because I think, we have to utilize all the channels. And I've been on the opposite end in quality, patient safety, risk management, and seeing these in these letters come through, or see the input from the staff when there is concerns, when there is insubordination, or when there is not collaboration between staff, which is a big deal because it affects patient outcomes, and we take that very seriously.
So yeah, and I think that that's really interesting because again, I had a bad situation at healthcare. Well, sorry, I'm not going to say who, but this other group. And I remember writing a letter and nothing was done. That woman had several complaints against her. She was allowed to retire and that wasn't done. And I really want to give props to the VA because there are so many ways to file a complaint. Christian, I know that you've been working on that side with that. What are some of the ways that someone can report, can file a complaint, can express unhappiness with services provided?
So there is the Veteran Patient Experience Office that takes any inquiries or any concerns with your healthcare complaints, and they have a database where they input that information. And that information is key in having and collecting because it's going to illustrate a pattern. And if there's a pattern, we can identify an area to improve. So that's one way. The second way is, yes, writing a letter to the quality management department. And there also is a website shared by the DoD, the VA, and everyone where you can report if you have a VA or a government email, any health or safety issue that a facility may have. And then there's also writing a letter to your representative, either the Congress or your Senate, talking to them about your experience. And if you go to your congressperson's office, they can write a letter of inquiry on your behalf, requesting the Department of Veteran Affairs to address your concern or issue. And those are some ways that you can report that experience up the chain and to the organization that is providing your care. So we are going to develop a flyer or some sort to be able to push out and that can be shared with any veteran that has an experience at the VA. And it's not just for negative, and if they're doing a good job, it's also there to be able to give that positive feedback where they are improving or you see a change. But I know we only have a few guests still on the call because we are definitely over. I totally thought we were going to get kicked out of.
I know, me too. But you know what? I think that we're not, crickets aren't playing. We're still talking, you know, they're not chirping away. We are still having a very important conversation. And I think that all these things should be brought out. We have what, Christina's on here, Carol's on here, Patricia Jackson Kelly, who is, I know she's a major advocate. She sits on a lot of different boards, and also being able to, you know, have that discussion with Dr. Batuman on here. And Krishna is like, I feel like she's the Google for the VA services. For all these administrative supportive services. So I know I'm grateful that I have access to her. So, but I guess now we can just go ahead and end this call. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Batuman. I know you're super busy. Thank you, Patricia Jackson Kelly, Carol, Christina for joining us. And we'll see you next month when we will be interviewing Jody Grenier, right? Again, another connection to Patricia Jackson Kelly, who happens to sit on her board. All right. Have an amazing day, and we hope to hear from you guys soon. We thank you for your service. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Stay on, Krishna, please. My dogs are brats. They can tell that they were quiet during the call. The cat wasn't. She does what she wants. But right now they heard me like logging off and saying GOOD.
Cut the recording.
Oh.